Welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where we teach future Survivor players how to play the game while criticizing current and former players. On this week's episode, we are going over Survivor Season 41, Nicaragua.
Season 21.
Drop the 4, add the 2.
Did I say 41?
Yep.
This
is episode 41 of the Rewind series.
Weirdly enough.
Yeah, so I mean, there's something there, but no, this is season 21, Josh.
Okay.
I'm going to leave all this in.
Do you want me to do it over? I can.
No, I'm leaving all this in because it's funny.
This canon.
I am one of your co-hosts, Josh Wessler. And personally, I watched this season only a couple of years ago in 2020. So I'm going to be looking back at some of the most memorable moments from season 21, Nicaragua. But more importantly, I'm joined today by two other guys who can maybe offer a little better, more recent perspective. I've got Derek Kubicek and Ryan Stacy with me.
Yo, welcome back, everybody. It's another edition of our Rewind series. Good old Nicaragua is here. I'm Ryan Stacy, your resident Survivor superfan. He knows everything there is to know about everything Survivor related, except burn books. And yeah, we're talking about Nicaragua.
And this is Derek. And as is the case with these Rewind series, at least until we get to season 27, I haven't seen these seasons, so this is all pretty new to me. And I just want to be upfront with everybody. I did know the winner of this season coming into it, but I didn't know any of the who, what, where, when, why, or hows. And I didn't know anything about pretty much anything. And there are some things in Survivor lore that I know about from the pre-merge that I'm excited to get into. But, for the most part, I would say that I've just, generally heard things about Nicaragua, and that's about all I got. So I'm the new guy here.
Yeah,
Derek's quote for this: "I've heard things about it."
Accurate.
Yes, that's exactly what I feel like Ryan has said to me before. Yeah, stuff happens.
So Nicaragua's very much like Gabon, I think, where it's kind of a train wreck. Whether or not you like that kind of thing, well, that's up to you. A lot of people don't. A lot of people say this is the start of the Survivor Dark Ages. I don't know if I necessarily agree with this being the start. I would give that dubious honor to 22. But, it's not a great season in the Survivor by any means. Before we get into that, though, the whole point of this podcast is you're busy people, right? It's, we're in the Survivor off season. There's 42 seasons of Survivor now. You don't have time to watch them all, even though you should. We're here to tell you which ones are must-watch Survivor, so you can watch those seasons, and if you don't have time to watch all of them. So we're here to do that for you. This is my third time rewatching this series, so I'm kind of your history buff. Josh is the guy who's seen it once, and he's going to just kind of test his memory and just see how memorable this season is. Derek's never seen the season before, so he is kind of your fresh eyes, fresh perspective on the season, and that's what we're here to do today.
And so that begs the question, gentlemen, is the pre-merge specifically of Nicaragua season 21 must-watch Survivor? And let's start with Josh.
Yeah, just for the record, we're just talking about the pre-merge today.
Yep, and we're not discussing spoilers now yet either, so you're fine.
Yep. So like I said, I actually marked this one down. I started watching Nicaragua in January of 2020, so a little over 2 years ago. And honestly, that's long enough ago to where I had forgotten enough about it at this point. Although I did remember quite a few more cast members, it seems like, than usual. Ryan and I like to play a little game where I test my memory of it. And I think it's more the recency than anything that's helping me remember a couple more of these.
Josh got 9 out of 20.
That's pretty impressive for Nicaragua.
Yeah, especially for Nicaragua.
So maybe a little bit of a memorable cast. I don't know if it's for good reasons.
It's definitely not
bad reasons. My overall impressions of this season is that it's a very meh season. I wouldn't consider it bad. I feel like in the last few, I don't know. Recently, I've seen a lot of hate for Nicaragua, and that it's at the bottom of a lot of people's list, or at least in kind of like a bottom tier. I don't know if that's necessarily the case for me. It's going to definitely be below average, in my opinion. But overall, this pre-merge, I probably don't think that it's must-watch Survivor. So I'm interested to hear what your guys' takes are on this.
In absolutely no way, shape, or form is this must-watch Survivor. There is nothing to learn here except what not to do. And that's pretty much across the board. There's almost no good gameplay in the entirety of the pre-merge. Everyone is a moron. Now, granted, there are people in this cast I'd like and enjoy. I'm not necessarily hating on the pre-merge. I'm just saying in terms of learning how to play Survivor, yeah, skip it. There's nothing there.
Now, Ryan, how can you say that it's not must-watch Survivor when people need to know how to play with the Medallion of Power?
That's the only thing to note is, we will talk a lot about like probably the most important era in all of Survivor, and that is the Medallion of Power era of Survivor, which we will begin and end today.
And I'm just going to let this bleed right into my answer a little bit. And I don't know if this is our friend group specific or if this is Survivor super fan base or Survivor fan base applicable. All right, everyone. But the pre-merge of season 21 of Survivor for me has been the equivalent of like the Attack of the Clones in the Star Wars franchise. You almost need to watch it for the memeability, but that is literally it. I can't defend it. It's not competent. It's not well made. It's not well edited. The characters aren't really compelling outside of a couple, I guess, kind of interesting stories. But like, I literally lulled my way, like LOL'd my way through the entire pre-merge because of how much our friend group memes certain aspects that we'll get into when we start talking about it. But we've already mentioned, of course, the Medallion of Power, which is, of course, the most important era of Survivor. So again, don't know if that's this friend group specific or if it's, Survivor fan base period. I don't know.
The Medallion of Power is definitely a Survivor fan base as a whole. Another specific meme that you're referencing is Survivor as a whole, but I think there's a third one that is more us, just because we have some sports fans in this group.
Yeah.
So I think there's a sports aspect that we meme on more than the general Survivor community, which we'll get into very shortly here.
But if I'm gonna put on my serious consultant hat for a second, no, this isn't must watch, but like, if you're a completionist and you love the memeability and you just want to watch something for the lulz, don't pretend like you're going to get anything substantial or substantive from this. You're not going to find it here.
I don't know why this. It was like when I was watching the premiere. So for the record, for people who might be new around here, I only watched the premiere, the merge, and the finale. And for the premiere, I don't know what it was, but with the cast, it's like they hold like a little place in my heart because they came up and I'm like, oh, this person. I don't know why.
There's a few gems in this cast. There are.
I might have a little bit of a soft spot for this cast.
So from here on out, so this is not must watch Survivor. We'll see if the next time at the post merge changes anything. I doubt it. But spoiler alert for Survivor Nicaragua pre-merge. Watch it if you want. If you don't watch it.
For the memes.
For the lulz. It's definitely a meme season. So before we jump into the season proper, let's go over the cast. We have 20 people, and the twist this season is they were divided by age. We have the Espada tribe, where everyone is 40 or older, and the La Flor tribe, where everyone is 30 or younger.
The flower.
We have no 30-year-olds this season. Nobody really in the 30s. But yeah, we're just missing a whole chunk of people. And that does make it a little interesting, because typically the 30-year-olds are the best at Survivor. So maybe that has something to do with it.
That it's almost like it went as predicted. If you were to plot the average positioning and the average skill level of a Survivor player on, a scatter plot graph, we just took literally the sweet spot out of it. The high point of the parabola.
We took all the inexperienced young kids and all the grumpy old people and put them on an island together. It's exactly what you'd expect. So here's our 10 members of the Espada tribe. We have Dan Lembo, a real estate executive from New York. Holly Hoffman, a swim coach from South Dakota. Jane Bright, a dog trainer from North Carolina. Jill Bem, an ER doctor from Pennsylvania. Jimmy Johnson, a little guy named Jimmy Johnson. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
The NASCAR driver?
Not the NASCAR driver.
Oh.
The former NFL coach and Super Bowl winner and like gameplay analysis guy.
Yeah, sportscaster.
The Jimmy Johnson, probably the most famous person to ever play Survivor, I think is fair to say.
Yeah, for a first time through.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah.
The Jimmy Johnson, who is, from Florida.
Yeah.
Like
from TV.
He's from TV, but from Florida. We have another Jimmy Tarantino, known as Jimmy T. He's a commercial fisherman from Massachusetts. Fun fact about Jimmy T. Apparently in his town, which is one of those really rough and tumble blue-collar Massachusetts fishing towns, he is just like the biggest legend. He's the legendary fisherman of his town. And he won a spot on Survivor by winning a competition run through Sears.
That seems so just apropos. It's perfect. Ryan, I feel like he would be just kind of the fisherman in the middle of I Know What You Did Last Summer movie.
God, I would love to see in the maybe he's the TV show. I know
he's the creepy guy who everyone thinks could be the killer, but it's not going to be. It's not him.
He dies in the third act. We find his corpse in the third act. We have Marty Piombo, a tech executive from California. Tyrone Davis, a fire captain from California. Wendy DeSchmidt Kohlhoff, a goat rancher from Montana. And Eve Rojas, a homemaker from Kansas City, Missouri. That is our ancient tribe.
That's the retirement home.
Ancient tribe.
Our Castaway Consultants our Castaways of a Certain Age tribe. And now we go to the Young Buck tribe, LaFleur. We have Alina Wilson, an art student from California. Benry Henry. His name is Ben Henry. He goes by Benry.
I love this guy's name. I love him just for his name.
Club promoter from Los Angeles. Brenda Lowe, a paddleboard company owner from Miami. Chase Rice, a professional race car jackman from Letterkenny, Canada.
That sounds right.
No, Derek was watching it, and he sent us a message saying Chase is just straight out of Letterkenny, and I laughed so hard.
I stand by it.
He's actually from North Carolina. Letterkenny, North Carolina.
Letterkenny, North Carolina.
Judd Fabio Berza, who will be known by Fabio this entire season, from California. Venice, of course. We have two Kellys. We have Kelly B. Kelly B is the one who's missing a leg.
Yep.
She's a medical student from North Carolina. Kelly Shin, most notably known as Purple Kelly.
Kelly Comic Purple.
We've made it.
Purple Kelly. We're in the Purple Kelly era of Survivor.
The most important era of Survivor.
A nursing student from Arizona. Nayanka Mixon, a physical education teacher from Los Angeles. Sash Lenahan, a real estate broker from New York City. And Shannon Elkins, a pest control company owner from Louisiana.
And there's a cast. No changing it now, folks.
Though some of them we wish we could. Yeah. All right, you guys ready to jump into these episodes?
Ready as I'll ever be.
All right, episode 1, Young at Heart. Our two groups of 10 come in, and they kind of get bamboozled by Jeff because they're just randomly separated into two groups of 10. And the first challenge is they are told to go run out into the jungle around this lagoon area and look for the Medallion of Power, which is hidden in a tree out there. Brenda is the one who finds it. She brings it back, and the people on her group, they're super excited. And Jeff's like, wait, I never told you these were your tribes. Oh, did you? Gotcha.
Clever, Jeff.
Oh, Jeff, you're pulling the wool over our eyes early.
And this is where they're divided into age. So Brenda's part of the young tribe, so she gets the Medallion of Power. They are given the option to keep the Medallion of Power, which they don't know what it can do yet, or trade it for flint and fishing gear. They traded for flint and fishing gear. This is 100% the right call.
I've got no issues with this, especially when you look at the physicality matchup and you think about the early game. It might not be true, but odds are you guys are going to be able to outperform generally.
And you have no idea what this advantage is even going to be. So, there's a little bit of mystery there. Could it be way overpowered? I guess. But it could do nothing. It could be this. You could save a couple of knots in a challenge, and that's it.
Yeah,
take the flint.
In season 43, it could have lost them their votes. I mean,
it could have turned back time for all we know now.
Maybe nowadays in modern Survivor, maybe hang on to this.
Yeah, actually, maybe in a 43 world, if they bring back the Medallion of Power but change what it is, you might want to hang on.
I would actually be terrified of what it could do. So hang on to this, maybe.
Bring back the mop.
But a flint is the most important thing you can have. So take the flint, and the fishing gear is a bonus. So they 100% make the right call. On the Espada tribe, we have Holly and Wendy. They make an alliance, and it's very clear that Wendy has just a terrible social game. And Rob Sestrino has often said Wendy is the worst Survivor player of all time. He thinks just across the board in all three categories, social, strategic, and physical, average them all together, and Wendy has the lowest score of any Survivor player.
I'd be curious who'd be at the rest of that bottom tier.
Yeah. There's a couple other people we could throw near.
There's some other pretty stiff competition. So, and I love the quote from her, like in confessional during the episode, basically saying that her brother said that she was going to be the first one out because she wouldn't be able to get along with anyone.
Yeah. Her husband said that. It was her husband. Her husband's like, you're gonna be the first one voted out because you're gonna talk too much. She's like, well, I won't talk at all. And so she doesn't connect with anybody and gets voted out. When he's gonna go home first. It's so sad.
That's why it's so hard to say she's the worst Survivor player of all time if you've only got 3 days of evidence. But I mean, Rob, with talking to people, can hopefully paint a pretty clear picture of what it was like around Wendy. We'll trust you on this one, Rob.
Yeah, he did a ranking. It was for the first 30 seasons of all the first boots in terms of how good at Survivor are they and when he got last place. Jane makes fire with her glasses, classic maneuver. Love to see it.
She reminds me of what's her name from Gabon. I'm having Jillian from Gabon. Yeah.
And over on the Young Guys tribe, Chase and Shannon are probably the two biggest guys on the Young Guys tribe. They're going to make an alliance. Shannon wants to do a bros alliance. Shannon's a huge douche, by the way.
We don't know it yet, but we're going to find out real soon.
Yeah.
I feel like you can tell right away here in the first episode, too. Like, we found out more next episode, but you get hints to it right away.
Kelly B, she reveals to everyone, like, hey, I'm missing a leg. And everyone's like, wow, she's so brave and inspiring. We have to vote her out now.
Yeah.
Separate confessionals from everybody saying the same thing.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. This is one of the first things I noticed about this cast is everyone is, I don't know, unnecessarily mean, at least on the Young Tribe. Like, they don't have that life experience of, like, the late 20, 30-year-olds and, older to really even them out, to be like, how about you don't just be a dick for no reason? Because everyone's like, oh, yeah, got to get rid of Kelly. She's got one leg, obviously. Duh.
I mean, they're not wrong. They just say it in, like, terrible ways, especially Nayanka.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that as we get further into it. But Nayanka is going to be downright cruel in her confessionals about this whole thing. Like, I'm going to throw it in the fire and stuff like that.
So here's the thing, my thoughts on Nayanka real quick. Because Nayanka is the name of the season. She's the big character of the season, I would say.
Yeah.
She's the bomb that needs to be defused.
And there's so many people who hate Nayanka. There's a lot of people who think she's like the funniest person ever. On this rewatch, I still can't stand Nayanka, but I do see a little bit more humor than I have in the past. Like, I kind of get what she's going for, and occasionally I think she's funny. But man, oh man, is she obnoxious. I would hate being on a beach with her.
Yeah, I think that she's probably the worst part of the season. And that's coming from someone who's seen the season once and who isn't going to watch every episode. So I won't be able to pick up on any potential charm that might be there.
I won't call it charm. I won't call it charm. I'll call it something.
Comedy.
Yeah.
So my feelings are going to be pretty difficult to change.
Jimmy Johnson, who is the oldest person on the old tribe, he does overexert himself and gets sick. You got to be careful doing that. We've talked about that a billion times. If you get sick, hide it. And don't work too hard. Chase also makes an alliance with Brenda. And Chase immediately falls in love with Brenda and tells her everything. Like, oh yeah, Shannon wanted to start a guys alliance. And Brendan's like, really? Huh, okay. Save that information for later.
And Chase getting swamboozled by the former NFL cheerleader.
Yep.
That is Brenda.
Alina and Kelly B, they're together. They're walking out to Tree Mail, and they find a clue to the hidden immunity idol. And Alina's really bummed out because she found it with Kelly. Kind of puts her in alliance with Kelly. Nobody wants to be in alliance with Kelly because she's missing a leg.
Because that makes her unalliable. I don't get it. I get what they're going for, but it's taken to an extreme.
It is really taken to an extreme.
You can still utilize her in the short term. Like, sure, if you don't want to go to the end with her, of course, that's fine. But that doesn't mean you can't use her as a vote.
Jimmy Johnson gives a motivational speech to his tribe, which just pumps everybody up. Like, Tyrone's like, I just got a speech from Jimmy Johnson. But basically, Jimmy's telling everybody, like, hey, I know I can't win. Like, I'm a millionaire. I'm not going to win. But I can help one of you guys win. And that's all I want to do. And Marty's like, yeah, but he could say that all the way to the final tribal council, and then they're going to have to give him the money.
They're both right.
They're both 100% right. Jimmy's doing it 100% the right thing, and Marty sees right through it, which is 100% right.
And you know what's crazy, though? I genuinely believe that Jimmy Johnson didn't care about winning.
Oh, 100%.
He's like, I just want to be here for as long as I can and have the adventure of, like, what is like the third act of my life.
Yeah.
You know, like I always have different kind of cameras on me and a different kind of pressure, and I'm in front of a different type of crowd. And I think he's like, you know what? I just get to be me. I get to live out this lifelong adventure. So I think that he was serious, but at the same time, like Marty's perspective is just as valid, because like, intent or not, if Jimmy Johnson makes it to the final three, that's a big problem.
So let's talk about celebrity cast members. So this is kind of my thought process on it. Yeah, Jimmy Johnson is not going to win Survivor, but he's going to hog all of the screen time on your tribe. So if you want screen time, which is part of the fun of Survivor, you get to see yourself on TV. You know, that's part of the experience. You don't want to get Purple Kelly'd.
Yeah.
Ironic that it happens on this season.
Yes.
It's Jimmy Johnson.
It's the whole reason why.
If you want screen time, which is valid, you want to be a presence on the show, that's part of the fun, you got to get rid of the celebrities. They got to go. So I guess my recommendation, this won't help you win or lose, but it will probably make your experience a little bit more enjoyable without the celebrity.
On the back end. And it's kind of the same as like a captain season a little bit. Now, a captain season is different because like you want them out because they have a huge advantage over you in understanding how to play the game. Celebrities don't necessarily have that, but celebrities also have the ability to work with people, generally speaking, or they know how to social politic a little bit better in highly stressful situations. They don't necessarily need to worry about money, so they can play a little more fast, a little more loosely.
Yep.
And me, I want as many confessionals as possible.
Yes,
so
same.
I love you, Jimmy Johnson, but you got to go.
So I completely understand why Marty doesn't want him here. Get rid of the celebrity. And the captain seasons, they're going to take up more screen time because they're the known quantities. People love these players. So if you want screen time, which is not necessarily the same thing as you want to win the game, that is the move. You got to get rid of those people.
Yeah, I'd say utilize them while you can. And the second that they don't serve a purpose, just cut them out.
Yeah. Immunity challenge. We are going to learn the Medallion of Power. If you play it, it will give you an advantage of some sort in the challenge. It'll make the challenge somewhat easier for you. Sometimes to an extreme level, sometimes not so much, but it will give you an advantage. And after LaFleur decided to take the fire and flint and the fishing gear, they gave it to the older tribe. The older tribe decides not to play it to prove a point at this first immunity challenge. They lose.
It's real boomer energy.
Yeah, it is.
We don't need an advantage.
The boomer tribe.
Rule 31, put your ego aside, or whatever it is.
So let's talk Medallion of Power strategy, everybody. We're here in the most important tier of Survivor, Medallion of Power, which Jeff has made fun of actively, like as a dud of a twist.
Oh, I'm glad that he does. I don't think I knew that. So
Yeah.
At least Jeff can admit that.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, that failed.
It'd be great if he would admit that kind of thing more often. But
Although I'm shocked that it wasn't altered and retried. Like that seems like something that Jeff / production would want to do, is like, this failed so miserably, but we love the idea, so we need to tweak it and try it again.
that does sound very Jeff. I'm glad that we're not doing that.
We don't live in that world. So when you have Medallion of Power, especially if you're the older tribe, play it. The younger tribe, where you straight up one-on-one, you probably have the edge. You could pick and choose a little bit more about when you play it, I feel like. That way, because if you do play it, it goes to the other tribe, and they'll have it next time. So, like, there's going to be a time when the younger tribe is not going to play it. I get it for them. If you're the older tribe, just play it. You need every help, all the help you can get.
In my opinion, I think that you should play the Medallion of Power literally whenever you can, because, like all good things, it's not necessarily long for this world, so you might end up just never using it. And that's one of those things that can be really good for you today. If you're on the bottom of the tribe, you want to use it because you're less likely to go home. And if you're on the top of the tribe, you want to use it to try and keep your power. I think it's just a good all-around strategy to use it if you have it. You don't need to hold it. Young or old, I do think that it's a net positive to use it regardless. I get Ryan's logic. You can be more thoughtful if you're the younger tribe, and you do get to see the challenge beforehand.
You get to know what it does.
Which is a lot of detail, honestly. But I think you use it whenever you have it and try and maximize its use.
And once they actually have it at the challenge, there's no swap or anything, right? Like they don't swap it for like some sort of reward or item or anything.
You just play it or you don't play it.
Yeah, it's just a waste. Like, why not use it?
Yep. And this way, you want to avoid having someone on your tribe being the first person voted out, right? It's episode 1. Play it. They're not going to play it, and they're going to lose.
No one wants to be first.
The geriatric tribe is going to tribal council first.
And they actually put up a good fight. So
yeah, it's actually pretty close.
A slight advantage
might have
probably
helped.
would have changed things.
So it's a toss-up between Jimmy Johnson and Wendy as the two weakest people of the tribe, even though Dan should probably be in this conversation as the weakest person on the tribe because the dude had knee surgery and can barely walk. I don't know why he's on this season.
I don't remember if we even get any of this in episode 1. So like we're applying a little bit of hindsight.
Yeah.
But if you're just watching episode 1, you won't think this. But yeah, Dan is basically a 0.
Yep.
I think he might be like the least physical Survivor contestant of all time. And that includes a certain Survivor named Scout.
Yeah, I think Dan could definitely be the weakest Survivor Challenge competitor of all time. I think he might be number 1.
Through 21 seasons.
Scout had her own knee problems, didn't she?
Yep.
Yeah, but at least she tried.
Oh, well, I suppose you do
Yep.
need to factor effort into this.
Like, she crawled up and down a vertical maze in case we've forgotten Vanuatu. I haven't forgotten that. Dan would have just been like, nah, I quit. I'm not going to win, so I'm not going to try. I got 6 Ferraris. Anyway.
Dan is such an enigma because the guy is super wealthy. I don't know why he's here. I cannot figure it out.
I mean, Jimmy Johnson is also super wealthy.
I guess.
I don't know why. Like he thought
but
he
you
wanted
can tell
the adventure.
He loves the game. I don't.
Yeah.
Do we ever hear from Dan that he loves Survivor? Or is he just like, I'm here? Surprise.
He's like Greek yogurt, man. I got nothing really to say about Dan.
I love Dan. I just don't get him.
Yeah. As a TV personality, he was like Greek yogurt.
So we're going to go to tribal council, and basically it's going to be unanimous that it's a Wendy, but just in case we needed any more confirmation, Wendy goes off on this weird rant about how no one has talked to her about her age and how she has no blisters on her feet and just goes on and on and on. And by all accounts, she hasn't said like anything to anyone for the first 3 days, and all of a sudden she just goes off on all this madness, and everybody's like, yep, bye.
This is like final last words at tribal base. It's just like, all right, we ready to vote? Jeff, can I actually say something? Sure, go
nuts.
it. And her big pitch is that she hasn't had blisters.
9 votes Wendy, 1 vote Eve. I guess Wendy connected the least with Eve, or Eve lied to her or something like that. They don't really talk about it in the episode. But yeah, that was the right move, I think we could say. Josh, why don't you tell us if you thought that was the right move? Since you watched this episode.
Yeah, I think the two choices are the ones that they had brought up between her and Jimmy Johnson, just if you want to get Jimmy off of there. But if you haven't talked to this lady, then sure. I'm assuming she's not in your alliance.
There is the idea of getting rid of Jimmy Johnson for, nixing the celebrity factor. But for a first boot on a season with 20 people, if there's someone who's literally not talking to anybody for 3 days, I'm thinking I just want to vote them out because tribe strength is going to matter for a while, and social strength and chemistry matters. And at least Jimmy Johnson is trying. So I agree with the move.
Holly was the only person to have an alliance with her, and she's like, yeah, I gotta let her go. Bye.
if Holly's like, man, I messed up, like that's a problem.
So let's get into best and worst player of the episode. Josh, why don't you start us off? Who did you have for best player of the episode?
Sure. I had Brenda as my best player of the episode. One, she got the Medallion of Power. Good for her. That's going to have huge payouts this season. And then she also did a really nice job connecting with Chase enough for him to divulge the men's potential strategy. And there wasn't a whole lot of alliance talk outside of that situation. So I'm going to give it to her.
Yeah, I agree completely. Plus, I do want to give credit to the LaFleur tribe as a whole for deciding to take the Flint and the Fire over the Medallion of Power. That's all of them, but I'll throw that in for Brenda as well.
For Derek, he didn't really like anybody on the young person tribe. I see where you guys are going with Brenda, and I'm not going to fight it at all. I didn't want to give her credit for Chase being an idiot, and like, whoop-de-doo, you got lucky and found the Medallion of Power off in the jungle. Like, it is something. That's why I say I'm not going to fight you on it. The only person who I felt like we really got to hear any game talk from pretty much this whole episode was Marty on the AARP tribe. So I'm going to go with Marty. It was a strong first outing. He was the only one who seemed aware of, Jimmy Johnson's star power and how that might become a problem in the near future and wanting to be in control without being in control. So I really liked what I heard from Marty on the editology side of thing. And without a lot of measurable moves to consider, I gave it to him.
How about worst player? Josh, you got?
I had Holly. Again, there wasn't a whole lot here, but she seemed to waver a lot when people were just talking about who to vote out. And I think part of that was because she was aligned with the person who was going to be going home. Yes, props to her for just ditching that potential alliance. So she did have that, but it just seemed like she didn't do a great job socially connecting with people right off the bat.
I had Jimmy T. There wasn't a whole lot to work with here. Obviously, we can't give it to the person who went home, otherwise it'd be Wendy. But Jimmy T. So first of all, the worst move of the episode was the entire Espada tribe not playing the Medallion of Power. So dish to all of them. So of the 10 people on the older tribe, not counting Wendy, I ended up giving it to Jimmy T just because he seemed really to annoy Marty immediately after the challenge by talking so much and strategizing. So it just based on he seemed to mildly annoy Marty, I'm going to give it to Jimmy T.
I also gave it to Jimmy T. And what's funny is even though I just watched this, I'm having a hard time remembering in which and how many episodes Jimmy T says the same thing. Come on, coach, you got to put me in. I'm better at challenges. I just need a chance. I want to serve this tribe. I want to do the very best I can. And he goes on these soapboxes and these soliloquies to nobody saying how he's the greatest thing to ever happen to Survivor. Yep. And he just needs the opportunity to shine and everyone else is holding him back. So I said that he was the worst of the episode. He certainly annoyed me the most. Dishonorable mention to Chase, I guess, for being kind of dumb with his Shannon alliance on the other tribe, but next episode kind of makes me feel better about not picking him for worst this time around. So
that's fair.
So I gave it to Jimmy T.
Chase saw the future and it was like, you know what? Nah. So let's get into winner picks. Derek, why don't you start us off? Who did you choose for your winner pick?
All right. So as everybody knows, I try and find a couple finalists or one finalist at least from each tribe. And as I've already mentioned, I didn't like anybody on the young tribe. From an edit perspective, from a best player perspective, I have to give it to Brenda, but I didn't really like the sense that she had for the game, and I didn't really feel like she did a whole lot outside of, again, finding the Medallion of Power. Everything else just kind of fell into her lap, and that's more of a demerit to Chase, so it's not going to be Chase than it is a merit to Brenda. Don't really like Brenda. So weirdly enough, the only person from the young person's tribe that I wanted to consider picking was a guy named Judd. And the only reason I picked Judd, a.k.a. Fabio, from the young person's tribe is because he had a confessional where he said, you know what? They want to call me Fabio. I don't care. I'm here to play the game. I'm not here to worry about what people call me. That's the kind of confessional that says I have some game sense and I am just going to do what I can. It's not about other people. Like we hear from Shannon about what he's going to do to the other players. We hear from Chase and Brenda about what they're planning on doing with other players. Fabio's the only one who's like, this is what I'm going to do for me. But I don't want to pick any of them because I think they're all incompetent and none of them are good players. So I am over on the 40-plus tribe. I think some finalists, you could look at Marty. He spoke with a lot of game sense. But I'm not going to pick him because he seems like the Andrew Savage boot. So I went with someone who had very little screen time but was always present in the background. And so I felt like that could be hints going forward with Jill, Dr. Jill, because if you watch that episode 1, whenever they're showing the old person tribe, she is everywhere. She's listening to everything. She's not front and center. She doesn't want to be front and center. And so I felt like there was enough there based on episode 1 to land on Jill for my winner pick.
Josh, do you remember who you made your winner pick when you watched the season for the first time?
Yes, so conveniently, we started this podcast, if you would remember, in 2019, in the middle-ish of 2019. Like I said, I watched this season for the first time in January of 2020, and at that point, I knew that we'd eventually be covering this season on the podcast.
Sooner than anyone thought.
Come this quickly. I thought it was going to be a lot longer till we got to this point, but we're here. So not only do I have my winner pick recorded, I also have all of my best and worst players also recorded and all the terrible takes along with it.
All right.
So finalists that I had from each tribe, I had Alina on the floor, I had Sash on the floor, and I had Benry on the floor. Those are my 3 from the young people tribe. From the old people's tribe, Espada, I didn't really have a whole lot. I had Eve and I had Marty basically as my only 2 guys. I didn't feel strongly about either of them really, so I'm gonna hop on over to LaFleur, basically the exact opposite of Derek,
Sure.
and just completely disregard the old people. Benry was more just because I liked him, so I'm gonna discard him and toss him off to the side. I really liked his name, but that's about it. So it was basically. Sorry, I forgot to mention Brenda too. So Brenda, Alina, and Sash. Between them, it really came down to Brenda and Sash. I really wanted to go with Brenda here just because it was really the strongest person that we got in this episode strategically, it seemed. But it seemed like it was a little bit too obvious of a potential pick for episode 1. So I tried to go sneaky here, a little bit more under the radar, and I went with Sash as my winner pick.
Okay. Well, back when this season aired, I was a junior in high school. So 11th grade Ryan picked Tyrone because he only had a couple of moments in the episode, but he was really funny. So I thought he was funny, and I didn't really feel strongly about anybody else, so I picked Tyrone. Present day Ryan probably would have gone with Brenda just because, again, there wasn't much to go with here. And I saw some stuff from Brenda, minimal, but something. And I really didn't see much from anybody else except maybe Marty, and he's got some strong Andrew Savage energy. So
Yeah.
I agree with you there. So, but we don't count my modern day picks. We count past Ryan, first time watch. So Tyrone is locked in as my winner pick.
I will say Tyrone is one of the few people after episode 1 I actively was rooting for. I liked him greatly.
Tyrone's great. Tyrone's a lot of fun.
The moment across the fire from Jimmy Johnson is burned into my head a little bit.
What year did this air?
This would have been in fall of 2010.
Okay. Oh, so we're not like terrible young Ryan here. Like
No, I think we're past
we're
that
into
stage.
we're into high school. You're competent at this point.
I
Or
should
am I
be.
giving you too much credit?
I think you're giving me too much credit. I was not a student of the game yet.
Josh, when's the last time you've talked to a high schooler?
They're pretty dumb.
I say this endearingly. I think we have some high school listeners out there. I promise you, in 15 years,
10th
you'll feel the same way.
10th grade me, cringe.
Cringe.
Oh, my goodness.
Ooh.
If I could smack 15-year-old Derek upside the head with something a little bit harder than a hand, I would absolutely do it.
I would probably cry if I did that to myself. So,
Which one?
Well,
Why'd you do that? I don't know.
Wow.
episode 2, Fatigue Makes Cowards of Us All. So Sash and Nyanka, they're gonna form a minority alliance. They want a non-white person to win the season. They want to get the minorities together, Sash and Nyanka, to bring in Brenda, and they're gonna run the table. That's their plan.
And we'll never see this again in Survivor.
We'll never see it again. So, okay. I know people who think this are probably not listening, but for anyone out there who wants to talk about how Survivor's too woke these days, bro, this is 10 years ago. More than that now. This is, people were saying that like, oh, they're being all woke on Survivor. This is not a new thing.
No, season 14 also happened.
Yep. Season 4 happened.
And
This is not new.
This was like early days of social media, so we probably didn't get it quite yet. But like 2010, like I think I signed up for Twitter in 2010, so it's probably just a little bit too early for just mob stuff to happen online. But I bet it would have been worse than it was now.
Oh, I bet you could go find this Facebook comment section back on Survivor's fan page before you liked things. Remember when it was just a little flag and you were a fan?
Eric became a fan of Survivor.
So on the older tribe, Holly, for some reason, is having a bad day. She has a complete meltdown. She dumps out a bucket of snails that were edible. There was nothing wrong with them. And she thinks for some reason they aren't edible, and she dumps them all out, wasting food. So everybody's like, what the hell just happened? And Dan is like, wow, she's kind of crazy. Holly hears Dan say, wow, she's kind of crazy. So she steals his shoes And these are not just regular shoes. These are alligator shoes, like $1,500 alligator shoes or something crazy.
Like these gator skin shoes.
Which, why do you have these?
Why do you have those on the island?
It's a flex.
It's absolutely a flex. Holly steals them, fills them with sand, and dumps them in the ocean.
Which is, like, low-key genius. Like, because it's one thing to just run out into the water and just, like, chuck them into the water, but to fill them with sand first, I don't think I would have thought of that. That's genius.
This is not the first time that Holly has sought revenge on somebody. This is the kind of like person-on-person crime that requires some experience.
South Dakota is a
South
cruel
Dakota.
place.
Can confirm. I've been there.
She feels guilty pretty much immediately and confesses to Dan. And boy, she just like kind of grabs his legs while he's laying in the shelter and like kind of peers over him kind of crazily. And Dan's like, oh my God, I am so scared right now. Dan has never been so scared in his entire life. She confesses to stealing his shoes and throwing them in the ocean. She nearly quits the game because of it. And Jimmy Johnson has to be the one to talk her out of it. What a roller coaster of a ride for Holly here. Oh my gosh.
So everybody, this is all trash gameplay, but so begins the memeability of what is the pre-merge of Nicaragua. Because like Dan is like, man, them are $1,600 shoes. Everyone's like, why? Why do you have $1,600 shoes? A $50 pair of like Skechers would have done the trick, dude.
Even that would have been too much.
I have so many questions.
A pair of Crocs.
My only notes really from this episode were just Holly ... Why?
Yeah, it's not good. Over on the floor.
Speaking of foot apparel,
Nyanka, she loses a sock. We don't know what happened to it. You know, no evidence to suggest Russell Hance is nearby burning socks.
and Dobby is also not nearby with any used socks that we know of.
Nyanka just lost a sock. We don't know what happened. So she steals Fabio's socks. And when he goes to talk to her, he gets like one word out and she just bites his head off and yells at him. Fabio's expression, it's just priceless. He's so confused. And Fabio's not the brightest bulb on the tree to begin with. And he's just like, what? And I felt that. I felt that the utter confusion on his face standing next to Nyanka. She berates him for daring to ask a question about his socks. And I'm like, I feel this.
If it would be the look on the stunned silence of weaponized stupidity, because like he knows that he can't say anything about it, and like she's got his socks pulled up to her knees, just like daring him to question her about it, and then just prepared the onslaught.
Luckily, Fabio, this is his extra pair of socks, so it's not the end of the world. But damn, poor guy. Immunity challenge. Espada has learned their lesson. They're going to play the Medallion of Power and win the challenge. Though I do want to point out they had a choice of reward between fishing gear and tarp, and they choose the fishing gear, which is just dumb.
Always a stupid move. We are strong advocates for the tarp on this podcast.
Take the tarp, you fools.
And I mean,
It's
they're
fine.
only what, 4 or 5-ish days into the season at this point. Even if it hasn't rained yet, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, that's probably why they took the fishing gear. It hasn't rained yet. They're like, we don't need it. We're fine. And they're going to learn like, oh, yep, we made a mistake.
LOL.
So just for future Survivor contestants, this is what we're here for. Take the tarp. Trust us.
This is the Russell Swan clause. Always take the tarp.
Always take the tarp, especially over comfort.
Especially. I mean,
We're
I guess
literally
fishing
just
gear is
2
utility.
seasons
But
removed from this.
Fishing gear is better than comfort, but take the tarp. And the power, in the hierarchy of rewards, tarp is the top one that isn't an advantage in the game. So the older tribe, they end up finding an idol clue in the reward. Jill, and so after the Russell Hance stuff that's happened in the past, they made the clues much harder this season. Like, it's actually tricky to figure out some of these idol clues.
yeah, what is a pace?
What is a pace? Exactly. So the older tribe, they all saw the clue. They're all reading. They're all trying to figure it out. Jill is the first one to figure it out. Derek, looks good for your winner pick. So is she going to go off and find the idol for herself because she figured out the clue?
No, she's not.
She's going to walk up to Marty and Dan, tell them the answer to the clue, and she's like, go get it. Jill, why? Go get it yourself.
This is some real like Survivor, I don't know, like 14 gameplay. And I feel like we get that recurring throughout this pre-merge just from the way that people are acting, that it's like, this isn't necessarily like really early Survivor gameplay, but it's not season 21 gameplay.
I'm going to try and articulate Jill's game plan, and I apologize. I'm going to use some other gameplay from the rest of the pre-merge to fill in the colors right now. Jill's whole plan is to be in the background, to have absolutely no target on our back, make no enemies, and try and play as clean a pre-merge as possible. Honestly, I can see why I would have been drawn to her then, because a camouflaged pre-merge leading into a good post-merge, like flexible place where you can move around is the best pre-merge to me. However, you leaned into it a little too hard. You need to know when an opportunity is hitting you in the face. If you go find that idol, you don't have to tell anybody about it. That can be your little secret. But instead she's like, nah, I'm going to use this to solidify my bond with the Martster. No, Jill. I get where you're coming from, but this was bad.
Marty's going to find the idol in front of Jill, so at least Jill knows Marty has it. But Jill, this could have been yours.
And then Marty's immediately like, look what we found.
And Jill is going to pay for this. I mean, in the pre-merge, Jill is going to lose the game not because of this, but, if she had the idol for herself, she would have lived. If she didn't have the idol, she died.
Yep.
This is directly going to destroy her game.
So, good job, Jill.
Good job, Jill.
Real galaxy brain move.
Yes. So the Young Tribes go to Tribal Council. Nyanka and Brenda are both targets. Nobody really likes Nyanka. Brenda's seen as a huge threat, and she and Chase have that showmance going on. Everybody's like, we should break that up.
Which they don't really show us at all. We're just kind of taking everyone else's words at face value, I guess.
That's kind of what we got to do here.
Yeah.
And we saw a little bit of it in the first episode.
Right, and we haven't seen it since. Can confirm.
So Nyanka and Brenda, they talk. Like, well, this sucks. How about we don't do this? And they pull in Sash and Purple Kelly, and then Brenda gets Chase all of them to join their side. So now it's a 5-5 split. We're gonna have a tie. And they want to take out Shannon because he's the leader of the other faction of people. He's kind of the alpha dude in charge of everything. So we're gonna get to Tribal Council. One of my favorite Tribal Councils. Because this is just insane. This is insane. This is actually insane. Shannon, I think he knows he's going home. I think he realizes he's in huge trouble, and he just lashes out at anyone who looks at him, especially Chase, Brenda a little bit. And then Sash just makes a comment. He's like, dude, you're just digging your own grave. And Shannon goes, all right, bro, let me get this out of the way. Are you gay? What? What? Why? And then everybody's just kind of like stunned, like, dude, what are you doing? And Sash is like, I'm one of the biggest bachelors in New York. He's like, yeah, there's a lot of gay people in New York. And Jeff Probst is like, so what you're telling me is there's a lot of gay people in New York? Yeah, more than in Louisiana, where I'm from. And it's just like, what is happening? What on earth is happening?
Yeah, I remember when this, I mean, obviously I remember when this happened. And I was just so confused.
I think most of the tribe was confused.
I mean, because you got a little bit of the shades of who Shannon is in the first episode. So is it a complete shock that he just goes off the rails here? Not really. But at the same time, it's just so out of left field. Just this has nothing to do with anything.
It's insane. And then to just throw a little more fuel on the fire, Nyanka just goes on a rant about how much she doesn't like Fabio. No one. Nyanka, I hate Fabio with a passion. Can't stand the way he looks or talks. He's an idiot. I stole his socks.
And then Fabio is just like, what did I do? He's like Dane Cook. I can't remember the name of that movie right now, but it's just like, what did I do? I did nothing.
Who was it? Was it Liana? Was Xander in season 41?
I don't like his face. Yeah.
They're reminiscent of just like no one. Liana, I hate Xander.
So pretty much almost all of his alliance flips on, like a couple, I think Fabio and Alina stick with Shannon to vote for Brenda, but Benry and I think it was Kelly B, they're like, yeah, we're not going to, we got to flip. And they knock Shannon out of the game.
Yeah, from a social perspective, and not to go like forward a little bit, but like this isn't actually all that different from what Varner did later on in Game Changers. Like, I know one is way more severe and deservedly so, but like the fact that you're even on that path is disgusting, because I don't think Sash discusses anything about sexuality, and I'm not even sure of it to this moment.
He just says he said he was not gay and he's been with more beautiful women than Shannon has.
So like, but the fact that it was an attempt at it, like, what are you trying to do here? Are you trying to like ruin someone's life outside of the game circa 2010?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Now that you say it, it does feel very Varner-esque.
It just felt needlessly vitriolic.
Yeah.
And so like, because Shannon is kind of a joke.
Yeah, exactly. He's a joke.
It doesn't hit the same way because like, he's what is it, Ben from 19?
Yeah, he's very Ben from 19.
So like, first of all, stop casting Bens from 19. They even look the same. But like, I just wanted to say, like, even though it was comical and it was ridiculous from a social side of things, like, this wouldn't fly. And he's one of my least favorite Survivor contestants ever, as of now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't stand Shannon. I don't think of him as contestants I hate just because he's such a joke. Like, I laugh at the thought of Shannon, whereas, you know, so, like someone like Ben makes me angry. I just laugh because I like, he's such a pathetic joke. Yeah, it was the right move to take this guy out. You just gotta, you know, if I was on an alliance with Shannon and he started going off on this, I'd be like, well, bye, dude. Voting for you.
It's early enough to where you gotta cut this kind of stuff early.
So excluding any of like the stuff that comes up at Tribal, let's just take before Tribal into it. You said that they kind of got a group together to vote for Shannon. A couple of people in that you said were Chase and Sash.
Yep.
We saw in episode 1 they had a potential thing going with him and like a guy's thing. So is this a good time for them to flip on him? Because it feels like they have some pretty easy targets, or at least one that they could be going with instead here. And he could be a meat shield here in the pre-merge.
So Sash is part of the Minority Alliance. So, you know, the biggest threat to the Minority Alliance, I think, is Shannon at this point. Shannon wants to murder Chase, I'm pretty sure. So I get those two.
So that original alliance just did not last more than a couple days.
If you make an alliance with two different people and they are trying to take each other out, that's what's going to happen.
I'm going to read between the lines. I think that Shannon did a lot of crappy things that didn't make the edit. And Chase was like, yeah, I'm going with Brenda. I'm not going to be associated with this guy come airtime. And I think it was probably the right move.
Yeah, Chase does say, like, yeah, you know, I was in the alliance with Shannon at first, but like then he's, I don't know, giving me some weird vibes. So yeah, I think Derek's probably right. There's probably some more stuff we didn't see. Probably not nearly as bad, but like still just like not great vibe stuff.
Or quite possibly worse. And that's why it never made TV, you know. So it's hard to say. I'm regardless glad Shannon's gone. It's early enough in the game where like if this dooms you, you were a crappy player anyway.
Yeah. So let's get into best worst player of the episode. I'll go first this time. For best player, I had Sash because he was the one who kind of started the Minority Alliance and, you know, eliminating Shannon.
No, I agreed 100%. There's no question there.
Josh, who did you have?
So I have no reasoning to back this up because all I did was write down a name, but I wrote down Marty.
Oh, yeah, he did get the idol. I didn't give him as much credit just because Jill gave him the answer and he just went and found it.
Yeah, that's a real kind of classic Josh. Just like, they got an advantage. Automatic best player.
For worst player, I had Holly for dumping. You know, again, we can't give it to the person who's voted out. Otherwise, it would go to Shannon. But Holly, she dumped out food. She stole Dan's shoes, and then she admitted to it. Yikes.
I actually gave it to Nyanka because she loses a sock and then loses her mind about it. And then, you know, like Holly, steals someone else's feet apparel, but instead of, you know, burying it in the sand and then admitting it and apologizing, she doubles down and creates a whole lot of drama for absolutely no reason, and then does it again at Tribal Council just out of nowhere. It's like, I hate Fabio's face, and I never want to talk to him again.
Here's the tiebreaker, I think, in my opinion, because those are the two. Holly dropped to the bottom of the totem pole on her alliance by what she did, or on her tribe. I think she's dead last right now. Nyanka actually moved up in this episode. She is one of the top 3, maybe top 4 people on her tribe now.
She may have moved up in her positioning, and I absolutely see where you're coming from, but I do think that anyone who's seen her behavior is very unlikely to vote for her to win the game. So she might be good in the pre-merge, but I think her chances of winning went down more than someone like Holly's at this point.
Sure.
So, but I respect the pick regardless.
Josh?
Good luck figuring this one out. I put Chase. Maybe because
Flipping
I thought, like,
on
he was flipping like one of his alliances. It doesn't really make sense. I probably would have gone with Holly at this point.
Okay.
Now that I am more educated.
2 years older and wiser, right?
Yeah, right.
Remember what we said about being stupid in high school? I still feel that way about 26-year-old Derek.
Yeah.
I'm 28.
I feel that way about 28-year-old Derek.
That's also fair.
Episode 3, Glitter in Their Eyes. Alina and Benry, they kind of on the outside, they know, they try and play nice to get back the tribe back together on the unity train, which is what we love to see. Nyanka doesn't buy it for 1 second. So I want to talk about Nyanka a little bit here. Because she has a horrendously bad social game. It's awful.
It is comically bad.
Comically bad. Strategic game, not the same. If you listen to her confessionals and the way she talks about positioning in the game and the strategy, if you listen to what she's saying strategically, she's actually got a really pretty good sense for the game. It's just the social game is so horrendous.
I agree with everything you just said. I actually made a note along the same lines. Like she dropped all of her Dungeons and Dragons like point counter, like ability trait counters into the strategic side of the game and left, a little bit for physical and was just like, I don't care about the social game.
She's doing the dark character run on an RPG where she's just an asshole the entire time.
She's the chaotic evil.
Yeah, chaotic evil. But not chaotic dumb.
No, not at all.
Honestly, I was probably just blinded by her negative social game to even pay attention to anything strategic.
I think almost everyone is that way, especially on like the first watch, and you have to like really like pay attention for it. It's like, yeah, you know what? She's right. What she's saying is right. She's just executing in the worst way possible.
A little Russell Hands-esque.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes.
Very like Machiavellian. I'm gonna get my way, and that's just the way it is.
Yep. She's kind of a female Russell Hands, maybe a little more confrontational than Russell was in his first time.
Yeah, she's more confrontational. I mean, I guess maybe she'll find 3 idols without clues later on, but we'll see.
So Jill convinces Marty to show the entire tribe that he has the idol and like say, this is for the tribe. Why? Jill, why? I mean, like for Jill, it doesn't matter so much, but like he's your ally. Why would you convince him to do this? This does you no good.
No, I disagree with you, Ryan. Okay. I think for Marty, this is a horrible move.
Yes, for Marty, this is horrendous.
But for Jill, she's like, Marty might just cut me because I'm the only one who knows about his idol. So if I can convince him to basically out this to everyone, now it's common knowledge and he can't just like cut me the dead weight for knowing about his idol. So I think for Jill, this is actually a pretty good move.
You make a good point about Jill. You know what? I think you've convinced me on Jill.
Sure.
I think you have.
But like we can agree for Marty, this is horrendous and it makes no sense. And by the way, any respect I had for Marty strategically, it didn't like all go away because like there's something there. He is the Lex of this season. He can move the pieces, but it's always wrong. He's a chess grandmaster.
So I have a counterpoint here because old Josh made a nice little note down that I think is interesting. I was basically saying that Marty knows that Jill probably can't keep a secret. So would it be a good idea just to get it out in the open now?
If it's something like that,
you would probably need to play it.
Yeah, if it's something like that, somebody knows and somebody's going to tell. Then yeah, you want to be the first person to the punch on that one. It's better coming from you than it is from somebody else. It's not great either way. So there could be something there. We don't have any for sure proof on that. But you could be right, Josh. If that's the case, yeah, then you want to play it sooner rather than later. So that is a very good point, Josh. So we get to the immunity challenge. LaFleur, they choose not to play the Medallion of Power. Basically, this is where they like, we're not going to need it this time. We can do this without it. We're stronger. We got this, and that way they don't get it, and they'll, we can keep them from having it. There is some logic to it, because for this challenge, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was definitely like a smaller advantage than some of the other ones we've seen.
I did not make note of it being a bad play, but again, I probably would have played it if I was on the young person tribe, just because you have it, you might not have it tomorrow. Use it while you have it.
I think it also helps that they had just lost an immunity challenge where the medallion was used.
Yeah. So it ends up being kind of a showdown in like I think it's sandbag tossing, and it's Benry versus Tyrone, and Benry just heats up. And Tyrone, he starts out really strong, but then he starts missing, and he decides to keep staying in the challenge. And you should swap out if you lost your streak, especially when people are saying like, "Hey, can I switch with you?" If someone wants to do that, you let him switch. That is the move. If someone's like, "Hey, I'll switch with you," let him do it.
Yeah, you don't need to play hero ball.
No. And Jimmy T definitely wants to get in the game.
He's literally saying, "Put me in, coach," because Jimmy Johnson is kind of elected like supervisor of the challenge,
shot caller in the challenge, and eventually Tyrone gets pulled out. And Jimmy T does great. It's just Benry's way ahead.
He lands 1 out of like 3 shots, which is more than Tyrone had landed in like the previous 50 shots.
But he did land his first one out the gate.
Yes, he did.
It was like, okay, maybe he's got something. But the young tribe gets it because Benry's very good at this. Like, if we're gonna have like bag tossing power ranking all-star contestants of all time, Benry's near the top.
Oh, easily.
So the young tribe, they get like a fruit or something for reward. Doesn't matter, who cares? It's a reward. But on the way back, Nayanka and Kelly B both spot the idol clue hidden in the basket, and you're not supposed to like mess with stuff at the challenge and then back and then the truck to camp, because you're being transported around. So you kind of have to like freeze. The game goes like on pause between like the challenge and getting back to camp, and then they go action and you walk into camp and then you can do stuff again. But they set the fruit down, and all of a sudden we get a wrestling match between these two to try and get the idol clue. It's like a slightly more violent version of what we saw with Amanda and Danielle in Heroes versus Villains.
Yeah. And basically, Nayanka takes off Kelly's leg, beats her over the head with it, and then steals and reads the clue. No.
Basically, yeah. No,
she pushes her over.
Yeah, so Nayanka gets the clue, and everyone is just so mad that Nayanka did this.
And she squished the bananas.
But Kelly B, you knocked over a girl with one leg. You know what? I'm going to side with Nayanka on this one.
Play dirty.
Let's say Kelly B had 2 legs. Would anybody be saying anything about this? No, it's just 2 people going after a clue. We're all equal on the island. You want to get a clue. You don't want the people on the bottom to get it. Yeah, okay. I support Nayanka getting the clue in this manner. And
now, if she took her leg off and threw it across the beach so that she wouldn't be able to like beat her to it,
a little
different.
But no, it was just like a little wrestling match over it. And if the only reason people are upset is because Kelly is missing a leg, that sucks. But this is the game. I'm Team Nayanka in this fight for this moment.
The beauty of this is the memeability again of the Nicaragua pre-merge, because I am totally fine with Nayanka fighting for the clue, and I am totally fine with Kelly B being like, I can't believe she pushed over a girl with one leg.
On that note, yes, I fully support Kelly B being like, wow, she's crazy. Play that up. Absolutely.
So like, I think everybody did the best they could here. It's just not something that you're going to get on 41 other seasons of Survivor.
No.
I guess the only other time we have someone with one leg is season 9.
Chad, yeah.
Wow, that's the second time that we've referenced Vanuatu, because we got Dan and Scout, and now we got Chad and Kelly B.
Nayanka cannot figure out the clue. It is tougher than other clues have been. She shows it to Brenda that she can't figure it out either, so no progress here on the idol clue. Jimmy T, Tyrone, Marty, and Jimmy J all get into like a cockfight about how the challenge was run. Bunch of alpha guys in their real life just like arguing about stuff. This is not great. Who cares? Step back and let the other 3 fight about this.
It almost felt like they were all saying the same thing. They just wanted to be the ones to say it. Well, guys, you got to put me in. You got to give me a chance. 2 guesses who that was. It was Jimmy T. And then you got Jimmy Johnson like, well, you let someone play it out. If they go on a hot streak, they go on a hot streak. But, that being said, maybe he should have come out. And Tyrone's like, I just want the tribe to win. And I thought I gave us the best chance. But like happy to let someone step in. And Marty's like, we all did this all wrong. I'm like, guys, like
stop.
No lies detected literally anywhere. Why are we fighting?
I just remember Jimmy T coming off the worst in this. I don't know why, but
nobody likes Jimmy T. That's
memory.
Why.
No, you're 100% accurate. That is fair.
So Marty wants Jimmy Johnson out of the game just because he wants the celebrity gun. That's fair. And his other reasoning is, people go to Jimmy Johnson for like leadership, and Marty's like, I want people to come to me. So
Good reasoning.
Dan and Jimmy T are 100% on board. He gets Jill on board to take out Jimmy J. But it seems like everyone else wants Dan out because Dan's physically the weakest. Now, everybody likes Dan Stefani, I guess, but he's the weakest. So here is where the tinfoil hat comes in. The rumor is, and this is according to Marty, I believe, has said that Jimmy Johnson asked to be voted out tonight. He's like, yeah, I'm good. You guys can send me out. It's fine. I think I've got my fill of adventure. Is that canon? No. Does it make sense? Yes. Because we're going to go to tribal council. It's going to be 8 votes for Jimmy J, 1 for Dan. It probably should have been Dan. I think Dan is weaker than Jimmy J. So, yeah, that's where the big question mark is. Did Jimmy Johnson ask to be voted out?
Sure. And let's focus on the canon for the second. There is a point when Jeff goes right down the line. Do you think you're a weak player? No. Do you think you're a weak player? No. Everyone says no until he gets to Jimmy Johnson. Do you think you're a weak player? And he's like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't mind this for someone in Jimmy Johnson's shoes. He admits that he's the oldest guy in the tribe, and he's like, I add value elsewhere. If you can't see that, then we're not going to mesh anyway. Dan, of course, is like, nah, I don't see myself as weak.
I love Dan. Dan's so great at these tribal councils.
Just commit to the bit. He's unintentionally hilarious. Yeah.
Am I a little slow? Yeah, but I'm strong in other ways. Love it, Dan.
In behind the scenes potential of Jimmy Johnson being asked to be sent home, was there a reason?
He's a celebrity with a cushy life, and this is hard.
Gotcha. Okay.
He did say several times this was the hardest thing that he'd ever done.
I do remember that multiple times coming up. It's just like, yeah, okay, we get it. Obviously, it's Survivor.
Why does he need to do that? At some point you're like, why am I here? I don't need the money. I don't need this aggravation. Why am I here?
I got the experience. I've been here for 9 days or whatever it is at this point. Bye.
Yeah.
I will say personally, because I am a fan of the NFL. I watch football. My opinion of Jimmy Johnson went up mightily with the little bit of time that he was on. So he just seemed like a genuinely awesome, charismatic, uplifting dude to be around.
I love Jimmy Johnson.
Every time that he's on pre or post game halftime, like that on Fox, every time he comes up, not only does Ryan always look at me and just say, hey, it's Survivor's Jimmy Johnson.
Is that Survivor's Jimmy Johnson?
Survivor Nicaragua's the Jimmy Johnson from Survivor Nicaragua and nothing else?
Not only does he say that, but I do see it. Every time he talks, I'm just like, Jimmy Johnson, Nicaragua.
Yeah, Jimmy's great. Jimmy Johnson's my favorite NFL person.
And this was the inner friend group thing that you had talked about, where it's probably more relevant to us than maybe other people.
It's mostly me saying it to Josh and Anthony.
But I definitely see it and I feel it. And, I like Jimmy Johnson a lot more. And by the way, when he got voted out, I messaged Josh and Ryan. I'm like, R.I.P. Jimmy Johnson, just because that's what we send to each other when someone gets voted out. Rip. And they're like, Derek.
Because immediately I jumped on the computer and Googled Jimmy Johnson.
I thought he was dead.
I thought he had died.
So
it scared the crap out of me.
Old.
So I know Jimmy Johnson is a big fan of the podcast. Jimmy Johnson, I am so sorry. I accidentally started a 1-second death rumor about you, but we were able to stamp out the fire.
People.
Yes.
You can't scare us like that, Derek.
I'll keep in mind, anyone who can order off of the senior menu at Perkins, I will say R.I.P. Jimmy Johnson's game in Survivor.
Yeah, a second sentence, who you think is going next in that tweet, in that text you send us.
Yes.
Just so we know we're talking about Survivor. Was this the right move? If Jimmy asked to be voted out, sure, fine. Because if y'all really like Dan, okay, fine. Vote out Jimmy, he wants to be done. If that's not true, I think Dan is probably the better move because Dan is definitely weaker in the challenges and we don't have a whole lot of alliance stuff happening. I think it should have been Dan.
It's fun to talk about conspiracy stuff, but because I don't know that, I have to stick to canon and I have to say that this is the wrong move. You should have voted out Dan.
Yeah, if Jimmy Johnson is going to end up quitting on you, then this is the right move. If that's not the case, which we're not shown, Dan should have been the right move. You can go with the celebrity thing and worry about not being on screen as much. You're going to keep going to tribal council if you continue to have Dan on your tribe.
So let's get into best and worst player. Derek, who do you got for best player of the episode?
So weirdly enough, I had it between Jill and Nyanko, weirdly enough, just because I think that Nyanko was in the right, and I think that her getting the clue was for the best. And of course, the young tribe is continuing to win. So like that's all to their merit. But I don't really want to give it to Nyanka, but I have to. So it's going to be Nyanka. I did give an honorable mention to Jill just because I felt like her talking Marty into revealing his information was a good plan. And I also believe there was a moment where Marty was trying to rally the Jimmy Johnson vote where he's like, are you with me? And she's like, yeah, you tell me what to do. And then he's like, but I want to know what you want to do. And she's like, I want you to tell me what to do. So she's like, no, I'm not going to have a target be put on my back.
Yeah.
This is just, again, I'd already mentioned it. Jill's game is to stay out of the limelight as much as possible.
Passive to a fault.
Yeah.
I would almost say.
And that's why I can't give it to Jill.
I actually gave it to Benry because I didn't think there was a whole lot here. But Benry, I really liked how he and Alina tried to like reintegrate themselves when they got back from Tribal Council. And then Benry was a boss in the immunity challenge and basically single-handedly won it for his tribe. So I gave it to Benry.
Ryan, I'm exactly on the same page as you. I had Benry.
I don't fault you for it. Nyanka's a very polarizing pick for something like this.
I think I ended up not giving her negative or positive points because I like what she did. She could have handled it better. So I'm like, it's a wash. So that's I think ended up being neutral on Nyanka overall. How about worst player?
So for worst, I had Dan. And it was because of the montage toward the end when they were talking about voting him out. You know, no one ever said that he was like a bad person or they didn't like him, but they were like...
Quite the opposite, I would say.
Yeah, they were like, he is very physically weak, he's not contributing, and he likes to complain about camp life a lot. And that's the kind of thing that might get you voted out today or might lose the game for you on day 39. So even though we had that civil disagreement before between the four on the older tribe, I'm still going to give it to Dan.
I ended up giving it to Marty for telling the whole tribe about his idol. And I think he's overly focused on Jimmy Johnson. Like, yeah, I get wanting the celebrity out, but I think it was almost like he was too focused on that.
And within canon, I can see that being a demerit.
It was kind of an ego thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Like
Marty, ego?
No.
And just to be clear, I'm going to rip on Marty a lot in this podcast. I'm a big Marty fan, especially in real life. I've heard a lot of the interviews he's done. He seems like a great guy. I think he's a better student of the game than player. I think he understands the game better than he plays it. So I greatly enjoy Marty, but I will rip on him quite a bit in this podcast. Josh, who did you have for worst player?
Yeah, for worst player, old Josh said Nyanka. I think it's more the way that it came off than anything. Like, yeah, is it okay for you to do that? Sure, but it's the perception that matters.
Sure.
And if the perception is highly negative, then that doesn't make you a good player in that moment. So that's mostly why I went with Nyanka there.
I would argue the perception of her really can't get much worse. So I don't think it really hurt her game.
Yeah, fair.
She's really leaning into the strategic side.
really, really, really leaning into it. Episode 4, Pulling the Trigger. Jimmy T spends the entire episode annoying everybody and wanting to be the leader. And we're done. That's the episode.
That's pretty much the episode.
Yeah, that's what I remember from this too. It's just like, yep, now that one Jimmy's out the door, the next Jimmy's ready to take his place.
Brenda's going to pull a real Jill move. She figures out the idol clue. Tells Nyanka. They both go looking for it. Nyanka's the one who's going to find it. And in confessional, Nyanka's like, yeah, we found this together, and I said this was for us. This is mine. This is no one else's. This is my idol. It's like, yes, good job, Nyanka. Well done. Nyanka starts off so strong in this episode. Kelly B and Alina, they go to check out the area those two were looking. And Nyanka decides to, like, walk over there and just be a dick to them, basically. She's like, I don't like you. Never have, never will. It's like, whoa! Nyanka, no, you're doing so great.
Nyanka walked up.
5 minutes.
Nyanka walked up with one stick of dynamite in each hand already lit.
Yep.
And just started chucking. Like, why did she do that?
So anyway, I start blasting.
Is Nyanka the Frank Reynolds of Survivor?
Yes. Yes, she is.
It's great. It's just like, oh. Marty, now with the Jimmy Johnson spot gone, he decides to ruffle Jimmy T's feathers by nominating Tyrone as the new leader of the tribe, which Tyrone accepts, and he should not have done it. But I think Tyrone wants to be leader.
Just hit him right where it hurts.
What is going on here?
What
is this season?
This is such bad Survivor.
Good on Marty's part. This is great for Marty. This is really bad for Tyrone. This is worse for Jimmy T. But it's so funny. We're going to get the blindfold immunity challenge. LaFleur is going to play the Medallion of Power this time. And Brenda is the caller versus Tyrone. The young people win pretty decisively. So good job, Brenda, for being a good caller in the hero role. And that's the last time we're going to get the Medallion of Power, everybody. That's the last medallion. You know, the era's not over yet, technically, but man, what a time.
If you guys are watching on video, I gave a very proper salute to the greatest twist in Survivor history. Let's try the Medallion of Power. That's a good trick.
So on the young tribe, Chase finds the idol clue, and he's like, hey, Brenda, look what I got. And she's like, okay, yeah, Nayanka has him. You can't tell her that I told you. Don't blow up my game, Chase.
And, you know, obviously Brenda and Chase, they seem to be each other's, I don't want to say number ones. Like, it could be Sash and Brenda.
Well, Brenda is definitely Chase's number one.
Yeah, and Brenda has a soft spot for Chase because of that. And I think she should have maybe steeled herself a little bit better from, I don't know, the puppy dog eyes of, Letterkenny's Chase.
Yeah, maybe like just let him look and not find the idol clue.
Yeah, just be like, oh, wow, man, isn't that wild?
I genuinely think Brenda didn't want to just like put in the effort to fake look around for it.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Because we're going to get this a little bit more in the poster. Brenda's kind of lazy. It doesn't like doing stuff. So it tracks completely that Brenda's just like, I don't want to put the energy into do this.
It's axiomatic of like your typical young person tribe mentality that we're always getting. Like this tribe reminds me of Africa a little bit with like the Kim Powers tribe and the Brandon tribe and
someone else we don't mention tribe.
Yeah, someone else.
And Lindsay too.
Yeah.
Lindsay was the three people we mentioned from that group.
The three amigos.
There's definitely not a fourth person we don't talk about. So everyone seems to want Dan out. He's the weakest. Duh. Except Marty.
Way.
Except Marty. Marty has an alliance with Dan, so it does make sense why Marty doesn't want Dan out. Marty has an alliance with him. So Marty goes to work. Tribal Council. This is so funny. So Jimmy T has this big emotional breakthrough. Like, Jeff is like, Jimmy, can you accept that you're not going to be the leader of this tribe? Can you accept the position of a follower and be just like a worker bee? And Jimmy T's like trying not to cry. He's this big tough fish, and he's like, you know what? I can do it. If that's what the tribe wants me to do, that's what I'll do. And it's just this great, powerful moment. I'm like, wow, some growth for Jimmy T. It's 5 votes for Jimmy T, 3 for Dan.
And like the best part of like I don't want to laugh at his emotional breakthrough.
No.
Like Jeff turned on his psychiatry. Jeff pressed the psychiatry, but oh my goodness, the poetic irony.
Oh, because Jeff knows probably that it's gonna be him.
But like Jimmy T's moment where he's like in tears and he's like, give me a minute. And then, like, they actually sit there for 30 seconds of screen time, just, like, panning between Jeff and Jimmy T, like, and then he says, I can do whatever the tribe needs me to do.
No, I'm happy Jimmy T had this emotional breakthrough. I'm very sad for him that he had this and then lost the game. It was a very human moment. It's brutal.
Jimmy T, we know you're a big fan of the podcast. We love you.
Oh, I love Jimmy T.
Yeah.
He seems like hilarious.
And I didn't know about the legendary fisherman because I'm not allowed to Google any of these people. Otherwise, I'd be all up and down this, but I can't.
I love Jimmy T. He's great. So basically what happened is Marty got obviously Dan and Jill on board because that's his alliance. And then he convinced Tyrone and Eve to go along with this too. So Holly and Jane were left on the outs for this vote.
Yeah, and it was on the pretense that Jimmy T was a little too hard-headed, a little too annoying, a little too strong-willed, and was creating discord in the tribe. So like whether or not this was the right move, I guess I'll start and I'll say, no, this isn't the right move. It should have been Dan.
This was a good move for Marty. This was a good move for Dan, obviously, and even Jill, I would say. Jill wanted to vote out Dan, which was dumb for her because that's one of her numbers. But this actually, against her will, this was a good move for Jill.
Yeah, but like for Eve and Holly and Tyrone,
Jane,
and
Jimmy T, all should have voted Dan.
Right. So, we can say, good job, Marty, for organizing this. For the majority of people, this was the wrong move.
100%. It should have been Dan. Again.
Yep, and that's what I had written down too.
Best player, I had Marty because I loved how we nominated Tyrone to be the leader. He saved one of his closest allies in Dan, eliminated one of his rivals in Jimmy T. So great episode for Marty, I thought.
I agree with Marty.
It probably should be Marty. I wrote down originally Nyanka, but
because she got an idol.
There's positives and negatives, but classic Josh. Here's the
idol. That sounds like a Josh thing to do. For worst player, I'm giving it to my winner pick, Tyrone. He agreed to be the leader. He didn't do he's the reason they lost the immunity challenge. It wasn't like a terrible performance, but he picked the hero position for himself and lost. And then he should not have voted on Jimmy T. So Tyrone is my pick for worst player. I
have Brenda because we solved the idol clue and basically handed it to Nyanka and then told Chase about it. So I felt like it was pretty weak gameplay all around from Brenda on a strategic side. I think that she's messing up her, I don't know, the ties of her alliances and maybe the branches she should be pruning and the branches that she should be nourishing. She's kind of getting them crossed a little bit.
Sure. I think that's really fair. I think that's a good argument. Josh, what did you have?
I think I'd probably side with Derek here and go with Brenda. Originally, I wrote down Daniel, but I think that's just because I thought that he was the weakest member of the tribe and not necessarily that he was a terrible player this episode.
I think
we didn't talk about him. So
we have to give credit to Dan. Dan's got a good social game. Everybody likes him, so people are like willing to hear reasons why we shouldn't get rid of Dan because they like him. So credit to Dan for his social game.
Yeah, Dan's entire stack is on his social game. He's got an absolute 0 for his physical game, and honestly, like a 1 or a 2 from a strategic game. We don't. It's non-existent. We don't see it.
He has an alliance with Marty, so it's not a 0. He has an alliance.
There's something there.
That's all we got for Dan. So he's playing the social game, and good for him.
Right. If you're gonna pick one,
that's the one.
That's the one. To get you far, that's the one. To win, you need a little bit more than that.
Episode 5 is Turf Wars. Holly and Jane, they're the next to go. They know it. They're in trouble. They got to do something. Luckily for them, the tribe swap's coming up. It's kind of complicated. One person from each tribe is randomly selected to be the captain, and they get to select the people from the other tribe who are going to join them. So you don't really know these people. You just get boom, 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 you, and you. And those, we don't really need to talk about this much because it's not really relevant, but the 2 captains were Holly and Brenda, and that was decided by rock drawing. But we can go over the new tribes really quickly. All right, so the new Espada tribe, which is going to be a 4-4 split situation. Dan, Holly, Tyrone, and Eve are all going to stay on this tribe, and they're going to be joined by Alina, Benry, Chase, and Nyanka. That is the new Espada tribe, so we got a 4-4. LaFleur is going to be a little different. It's going to be 5 of the young people, 3 of the older people. The 5 youngs who are all staying on this tribe are Kelly B, Kelly S, Purple Kelly. We mentioned her at all?
No.
Who? Brenda, Fabio, and Sash. And they're going to be joined by Jane, Jill, and Marty. Those are our new tribes. So Marty, Jane, and Jill look like they might be in some trouble.
And for the record, I know that this was selected at random, but I really like Brenda's picks.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. I didn't really have any notes about this pick. Go ahead.
Yeah, my thought is if you know that you've got more people, and they knew how many of each was going to be on which, so she knew that the young people were going to be in the majority no matter what happened. And in a tribe swap, you try and stick with your original tribe if it suits you. And the young tribe isn't so divided that it's unworkable.
Yeah.
I think picking the people on the other tribe who seem the strongest in challenges, or, maybe they talk a little bit more when Jeff is asking questions, pick them, bring them over so that you can eliminate them before the merge because you'll have numbers. I really like Brenda's picks in particular.
At least the Marty pick for Brenda.
Well, for sure the Marty pick, but I'm just guessing like it can't be a coincidence that she managed to get Marty and Jill. Because that is kind of a power duo on the other tribe. She obviously saw enough from interactions between camera shooting where she's able to do that.
Maybe. You might be giving Brenda too much credit.
Maybe.
I will say a big old maybe for you.
Mm-hmm.
Possible credit, possible just luck. But if there was any forethought into that, good for her. Especially with the Marty pick. If you can neuter that guy and the threat level he is, that's great because Aiki's probably the one who talks the most, the older people.
It's very possible. I can also see Jane being pretty talkative too.
Sure. So instantly, Holly vibes with the younger players, and she was on the outs. Tyrone, Eve, and Dan, the other three, were in the majority in the last vote. She's like, screw those guys. I'm going to go join these young folk.
In one of the few moments of self-awareness in the Nicaragua pre-merge, Holly, the shoe assassin herself, plays this perfect.
Yeah, she knows she's got to do something, and then she has this vibe with the young kids that she's like, you remind me of my sons and daughters. Love you so much. And she bonds with them amazingly. And even like Nyanka and Alina, who have not gotten along this entire game, they're like, oh, this is good. We got the numbers. Let's work together. Okay, cool. It's kind of like, we're going to set our differences aside. We both don't really like each other, but we can work together and work through this. And we got Holly now. We got the 5. We're great. And I love this.
I have a note. And this is another one of those pieces of evidence that like Nyanka, although pretty much drawing dead on the social game, she knows when like a situation is beneficial or not to her. And that's where like I was like, wow, I guess we buried the hatchet between Alina and Nyanka. Good for them.
Good for them.
I'm so happy for them.
Nothing brings people together more like wanting to take down old people.
Absolutely.
That's one thing we can all agree on. Wait, how much of our audience is old? No, I'm just kidding.
On the floor, Jane's going to do the same thing because she knew she was on the bottoms. And according to her, Marty and Jill barely talked to her this entire game. And we have not seen them strategize once. So, yeah, it checks out. Story checks out. So she's like, I'm gonna go flip, especially because we don't have the numbers. Bye, Marty. Bye, Jill.
And this works. If that can buy you, a couple of votes, get rid of a couple of your old tribe mates. Yeah, you might be at the bottom of the tribe, but all you have to do is make it to the merge, and then maybe you can realign somehow.
And you know what? I think it's been a couple seasons since we've had a true tribe swap.
We have not had one since Gabon.
And we didn't get a tribe swap in 41 or 42 either.
Nope.
So this is a good reminder. If you end up in the minority of a tribe swap, you just need to find a way to buy enough time to make it to the next twist.
Yep.
Be it merge, be it something like a second tribe swap. You need to find whatever it takes. And if that means like turning on your original tribe mates and flipping immediately, you got to do it. You got to buy yourself 6 days.
Only one survivor.
Yeah. So
I think you could be at the bottom of your original tribe, or you could be at the bottom of this new tribe.
I'd rather be at the bottom of the majority for today's sake. Today, Derek is all about that.
Absolutely. Marty is like, I feel like Jane's going to tell everyone I have an idol, so I'm going to do it. And this one is fine because I think Marty's 100% right. Jane is going to tell everybody. So Marty beats her to the punch and tells everyone he's got the idol. So I hated that Marty did it the first time. And if he hadn't done it the first time, you wouldn't have had to do it this time, probably. But starting with this episode, this was the right move for Marty. We dropped in here.
It's almost like if you make a questionable move one time, you're gonna pay for it.
Yep.
You're gonna keep falling on that sword, and just bleeding onto the ground.
But he didn't make a bad problem worse, I guess.
Yeah, and I agree with you that this was probably like, I give him negative points for doing it, but like it wasn't this time that was the bad time. It was the first time, and now you're just continuing to pay.
You're continuing to bleed. We get a really bad storm. Nyanka has kind of a mental breakdown, and we get a nice moment of Alina and then Chase coming in and like comforting her. And Chase tells like a really like sweet story about the passing of his dad. Really emotional moment for Chase.
It's an emotional moment for Chase, but this sounds bad. I was too busy laughing at Nyanka having a miserable time. She's like, I don't know if I can do this. I think I might quit. I'm like, so she goes through all this trouble, makes a ton of enemies, pushes over a one-legged person in order to steal a clue, gets an idol, and then like is losing to the rain. I thought that it was funny, but you're right. It was a good heartfelt moment for everyone trying to comfort their distraught tribe mate.
Yep. It was a good human moment with some funny elements.
Yeah.
I just wrote down "suck it up."
Suck it up.
Suck it up.
LaFleur is going to win immunity. Fabio and Jane end up winning it for their tribe, so good for them. Espada is going to tribal council. It's the 4 young people with Holly, and they get to pick of the 3 who they want to go. Tyrone has been very bossy, kind of grumpy. He gets a little salty. Everyone they won chickens at the reward challenge, which who cares? But everyone wants to cook a chicken. Tyrone does not, and he gets a little grumpy about it. And then he eats more chicken than everybody else when they do cook it. So Tyrone is not playing well. And then they're also thinking about like Nyanka because she has had a mental breakdown.
Yeah, like is she is she going to quit?
Right.
And if she's going to quit, we should just vote her out.
Right.
So, real quick, just because I had written this down, but I wrote down cool challenge. What was that? The immunity challenge?
Here I can double check for you real quick. Because I think Derek also said this is a cool challenge.
Was this the water wheel of death?
It might have been the water wheel of death. Let me double check for you.
Can you picture it though? Like now that I've talked about it?
Yes, this is the water wheel of death challenge where 3 castaways are strapped to a giant wheel, spun around. They get dunked underwater and then they have to spit the water out into like a funnel.
The spitting the water challenge.
Yes.
Yes, I absolutely remember that one. Oh, I love it.
This might be my new favorite team immunity challenge of all time because this is so medieval and archaic, and it just looks miserable.
We will get it again. This is not a one and done. I think it's a 2 and done.
I believe it's a 2 and done, but then there's one other like medieval one that I can remember.
Sure. But there was one point where Brenda, she's one of the ones strapped to one of these giant paddles, and they like stop the wheel with her head underwater for a second. And she's like, stop.
Excellent challenge.
Bring back this kind of stuff. I love this.
These are the challenges we need.
Wonky ass challenges. I love it. We're going to go to Tribal Council. It's going to be 6 votes Tyrone, 2 for Nyanka. Eve is the other one who's left out. So I have a question. Why not Dan? Tyrone is probably the biggest guy in the game. Why not Dan? He can't walk.
It really seemed like Holly got to drive this vote. I don't want to say like, because the young people, they kind of have the power no matter what. But I think they really wanted to solidify their bond with Holly, and Holly was the one saying like, Tyrone is making me uncomfortable. He's very intimidating. It's hard to go up against him. And of course we know that Dan's rolling a natty 20 on his social every single time. So I'm guessing they just asked Holly, who do you want to vote out? As long as it's not one of us and we can get through this without creating waves, that's what we're going to do. And I think that Holly said Tyrone.
And then I'm going to give some, Holly should have been thinking a little bit more clearly about this if that's the case.
I agree.
Dan, you stole his shoes. He might still be harboring resentment about that.
Well, I mean, he does have 6 Ferraris and like 2 beach houses, Ryan. Like a $1,500 pair of shoes is pennies.
I mean, I get Tyrone has the worst social game of those 3, Tyrone, Dan, and Eve. This move doesn't make sense to me. I really don't get it.
For like the long play here of they just don't want someone strong in like from the older tribe still in the game, so they're just trying to kind of pick them off.
They don't say that, but I don't like that either.
I think it might have been mentioned offhand, like really quickly in passing, but it was not a primary driving factor of the vote. It very much felt like it was Holly's narrating of he's very intimidating and it's hard to go against him.
And then all the young people were just kind of annoyed he was telling them what to do.
Yeah, because he kind of came in as like the young tribe parent, yada, yada. We've said on this podcast once, we've said it a million times.
Nobody wants a parent.
Don't act your age.
So this is a bad move. I think it should have been Dan 100%.
Once again, it should have been Dan.
I don't know exactly what I was necessarily thinking. I think it was more just like it's fine because it's not someone that would necessarily be in your core group, and he seemed like he was a bigger threat. So like if you're looking at it from that perspective, I guess it's okay, but Dan would have been just as fine.
Yeah, I think it's too early to take out Tyrone. Derek, who did you have for best player of the episode?
So I know we just kind of gave demerits to not voting out Dan, but I actually ended up with Alina here. I ended up with Alina because she placed herself really well on the new tribe. She ended up being able to make nice with Nyanka, which was incredible. She comforted Nyanka in a moment of, Nyanka's weakness. They were able to bring over Holly and make sure they had a very strong majority. And ultimately, someone from, the older tribe, not in her alliance, went home. And even though I think as a tribe and keeping it strong, that was bad for the tribe as a whole, I think Alina's net positive position in the game went up so high this episode based on what she did after the swap that I have to give it to Alina.
I gave it to Jane because I like, she and Holly both made really good inroads. I criticized the Tyrone move, so that knocks Holly down a little bit for me. But then Jane, she also did really well in the immunity challenge. It was her and Fabio who won it for her for the tribe in the end, so I ended up giving it to Jane.
I agree with Ryan. And I gave it to Jane 2 years ago. It sounds like I probably would do the same again. And I did write down that I would have given Alina a honorable mention. So There you go, Derek.
All right. Derek, who did you have for worst player of the episode?
I ended up having Marty. And I think part of it was when they first swapped tribes. Marty answered a question that Jeff had asked with, I really wasn't planning on this right now. And that's not such a bad thing to act surprised if a twist in the game comes up. But I think everything that came after was like he didn't really plan. He didn't really think. And I understand that Jane might have outed him on his idol anyway, but the way that he presented himself on this new tribe was very much as the alpha. This is how we're going to do it. I've never had to lie. I've never had to deceive anyone. This is how we should all play. This is how it works. And that does not resonate well with the young tribe. And I think that Marty, although in a power play on his old tribe, is very much low man on the totem pole now on his new tribe. So I had Marty.
Totally get that. I ended up giving it to Eve just because she ended up being on the wrong side of the vote. I didn't really feel strong. You would agree this time around. Josh, who did you have?
I agreed with Derek here. I went with Marty. That was really the one big quote. You don't see this coming. It's a X pitted against X season. There's gonna be a swap. They're gonna mingle you together. And even if it's not that type of season, you have to always be prepared for a swap just in case. That's my main reason why.
That's fair. I think you guys might have convinced me. So
woohoo! Go me and Derek.
So I lost my winner pick. Tyrone's out of the game.
Ooh, rip.
So past Ryan, the thought process was, all right, there's two people with idols in the game, Nayanka and Marty. I like Marty better than Nayanka. So Marty was my new winner pick. I would not have done that today. I would have been like, oof, that's neither one of those is good. I probably would have switched to Holly, to be honest, because I thought Holly had a great episode.
Bold move switching to Holly.
Yeah.
She had a good episode, but yeah.
I don't love anybody.
We're grasping at straws here.
So wait, did you end up switching to Marty, you said?
Yes, past Ryan switched to Marty.
And I remember actually having a conversation with Ryan at this point when he went home back when I was watching, and he made that comment to me. And I wrote down, Marty is a sucker winner pick, Ryan.
Yep. And Jeff, this is why 16-year-olds are too young to play Survivor, because Ryan was 14 or 15 when this season aired, and he does not understand.
He had an idol, okay? Generally, safe
good
bet.
Enough for me to give him best player, probably.
Pick someone who's got an idol. At least they have the safety net. Tell me if I'm wrong, but Marty is probably a better pick than Nayanka.
Yes, if those are the two, I'll give you Marty.
Thank you. But I'm stuck with my we play with my past winner pick, so now I'm on Team Marty. So we'll see how this goes for me.
Marty.
Episode 6, worst case scenario. Dan talks about wanting to quit the game. He tells Holly this. He tells Eve this. But Eve kind of went up to Holly and it's like, hey, why'd you leave me out on the vote? And Holly's like, yeah, we should communicate more. Also, did you hear that Dan wants to quit the game? And just completely changes the subject. I really liked that a lot.
The information dump. It was kind of like, I've just had so much on my mind that you kind of slipped it.
Yep. So like that for Holly. We're going to do the thing where both tribes are going to go to tribal council. One person from each tribe is going to win individual immunity. And then those two people will play for a reward feast for their tribe. It ends up being Holly and Jill, and they square off for the reward, and Jill is going to win for the LaFleur tribe. So LaFleur is going to go to tribal council first, vote somebody out, then they get to watch the spot of tribal council and have a feast. So LaFleur is going to go first. Obviously, the original plan would have been like, okay, we're going to split the votes between Marty and Jill. Jill's got immunity. Can't do that anymore. You still want to flush the idol? All right. Well, we could split between Marty and Jane, but everyone likes Jane so much. Like, all right, how about we do Kelly B instead? Because that was, she's got it. She's missing a leg. We don't need her in the game. Basically, is what it amounts to. So that's the new plan. We're going to split the votes between Marty and Kelly B, and we'll bring Jane in to replace Kelly B. Okay, cool. I'm on board. Fabio really likes Marty because the two of them, they vibe, and if Marty told Fabio he's a chess grandmaster to try and get Fabio on board.
Was that this episode or was that the next one?
Yeah, that was this one. And Fabio's like, cool, man. Makes sense. Wouldn't mind with you.
Meanwhile, Marty admits that, he's not a chess grandmaster, and the man he was talking about was actually a tennis player from the 70s.
Yeah. But what cracks me up is Fabio did know another chess grandmaster.
Yeah, Bobby Fischer.
Yeah.
Everyone knows Bobby Fischer.
I wouldn't have known Bobby
What?
Fischer except for Survivor. I don't.
Zero
No.
chance.
Bobby Fischer, Magnus Carlsen. Those are the two
Magnus
that I know.
Carlsen, the GOAT.
The GOAT.
I don't even know who Magnus Carlsen is. I'll be honest. I have no idea who you're talking about. You could be.
He's like
you
the
could
reigning.
be. You could be.
Reigning.
You could be Martying me right now, and I would have no idea. Yeah, he's the chess great. Did you play him and beat him when you were like a 6-year-old, Derek?
6 times actually.
Oh, 6 times
in a row. It was crazy. I knocked over all the pieces and pooped on the board.
Fun fact: Ryan has never beat me in chess.
The fun fact: I have actually never won a game of chess against a human in my life. Real sense of shame I have there. I've beaten computers before, but I've played a bunch of chess in my life, and I've never won. I love chess. I really like it. What happens every single time is I lose focus for 1 second, and I'm out.
And this is more for the viewers than about Survivor. But Ryan, remember that time that you and I were playing in college? We were in like the Centennial Student Union, and we dumped the pieces out, and like it was like 8 moves into the game, and I moved a piece. I'm like, Ryan, I think that's checkmate. And even I was like, what? And then you sat there for a half an hour with a finger on your chin, like, my God, I think you got me. I think you got me.
Yeah, no, it might be the biggest sense of shame in my entire life is the fact that I have never beaten anybody at chess. Quite embarrassing for me. As the strategic mastermind that I call myself, it's just my problem is always I lose. Because there's one game in particular, shout out to my buddy Nick, I was winning. I was so winning, and I made one stupid mistake and lost the whole thing just because a friend of ours walked in. It's like, oh, hey, Jake. And I thought I just made a move and didn't really think about it, and then that was over.
Ryan's not about being 7 steps ahead. He's more of a 3 steps ahead kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
I appreciate
It's
it.
a compliment.
You find a sweet spot in the middle. Like in everything but chess, it works well. But unfortunately, in a game like chess...
Yep. I just... And the thing that's sad is I actually taught myself how to play chess. I was really interested in it when I was like really little, like 5. And I was at a bookstore with my mom, and there was like a how-to chess book. And with like animations and stuff, so it was a little bit more geared for kids, but it was really good. Like, here's how you play, and I really wanted it. My mom thought I would never play it in my life, and I like memorized the book, taught myself how to play, and I could play it against my dad, no problem. Like I knew what to do, I just couldn't win. I'm like, oh, I'm a dumb kid. My dad's an adult, of course I'm gonna lose every time. And then keep going in high school and college. I continually play my friends, and I continually lose, and here we are. Still have never won.
For whatever this is worth, I was the 4th grade chess champion of Wilson Elementary School in Owatonna, Minnesota. And there were like 100 kids in 4th grade, and it was mandatory participation. And it was step ladder bracket. And honestly, I walked through most of that. Taylor Smith, if you're out there listening to this podcast, I remember playing you in the semifinals, and you were very good.
To my credit, though, I have never lost a game of Candyland in my life. I have a perfect, and I have played a lot of Candyland. I have never lost.
100% luck.
I have. My dad is still salty
100.
about this. My dad is so salty about this because he played me a bunch at Candyland when I was a kid because I like to play games, and whatever reason I always beat him at Candyland. And he's still salty about it to this day. It's very funny. So I may not have chess, but I have Candyland.
How did we get here, guys?
We're talking about Marty, Grandmaster
right.
Marty.
Grandmaster
This
Marty.
is some great chess content, guys.
I love it. Anyway, Marty and Jill, they're like, we'll vote for Jane. They get told, hey, vote for Jane. Jane's gone. We're like, okay, fine. Yeah, not much they could do. Just go with the flow. Marty, you might need to play your idol. It might be coming for you.
It'd be a good time to play it.
And we'll just do the LaFleur stuff, and then we'll come back to the strategy for a spot. We'll, just to streamline it. So we're going to go to the LaFleur Tribal Council, and Brenda throws out this claim like, hey, Jane, Marty and Jill are targeting you. You can't trust them. And Marty and Jill are like, whoa, that's not what happened. You told us to vote for her. Marty doesn't handle it particularly well, but Brenda comes off as really smarmy, I feel like, here. I don't know. I just didn't think this was a great look for either of them.
It was interesting because I think, how sometimes when you're watching a presidential debate and then the commentators are like, oh, so-and-so landed a really good blow here. And you're like, that didn't really feel like that much of a blow. But perception is reality. And at least from Jane's point of view, I think this landed more than it didn't. So yeah. I agree that from the viewer's perspective, it was like, Brenda, you didn't need to do this. Like the young people clearly have the numbers and have control. And Brenda was just kind of rubbing Marty's face in it by like saying like, wait, were you not going to vote for Jane tonight?
It helps that Jane already does not like Marty. It's it's
Right.
more like reconfirming these biases that Jane has.
Right. And that's why, like, it's not that smarmy, because we would call, a player like Omer from season 42 very good. He did the exact same thing with Mike DeHai, and that's a good move then. I would have liked it better not at Tribal Council.
Yeah, I think that's the key difference.
And another thing is Omer didn't do it from a position of like super power, unimpeachable power, whereas Brenda's kind of punching down when she doesn't need to.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a little unnecessary, and I feel like you get this a little bit with Brenda, where it just the things that should come across better don't, and I think it's more the execution than anything that just kind of rubs you the wrong way.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'll throw this out. I am not a big Brenda fan. So I don't like Brenda.
I haven't seen enough.
So here's where things get crazy. Marty does not play his idol, and I think from his perspective is he felt like they were trying to trick him into playing his idol, and they weren't actually going to go for him. I think that's what he thought, and it ends up being a tie. 3 votes for Kelly B, 3 votes for Marty, 2 votes for Brenda. Okay, perfect. Marty can't play his idol anymore. You knock Marty and the idol out of the game. Perfect. Nope. Revote. It's going to be 5 votes for Kelly B, and then Jane votes for Marty because she doesn't like Marty. WTF is my note. Why on earth do you not get rid of Marty here? Yeah, you burned Kelly B a little bit. Who cares? Marty has an idol. You have him. He's gone.
I don't understand this at all. This is one of the... I think this is the weirdest revote result that I've ever seen in Survivor. Because it doesn't... You put votes on him to try and flush the idol. He didn't play the idol. It didn't get flushed. The whole reason that you split the votes... and then you just ignored it. I bet that was the point.
So is it just that Fabio didn't want Marty to go? Okay, you don't need Fabio's vote to knock Marty out here. You don't need him. You can do it anyway.
And even if you don't, then why? Like Derek said, why are you splitting it? Like if his opinion is going to be the differentiator here, then it should be a near unanimous vote.
Just vote out Kelly B or Jane. Yeah, just pick one.
This makes no sense.
You have the biggest layup slam dunk of a gift here after Marty, for some reason, inexcusably, does not play the idol.
He should have played his idol 100%. So horrible on Marty for not playing his idol. He should be out of the game. He should be gone here. And he would have no one to blame but himself. He survives this through no fault of his own. Entirely the faults of Fabio by accident, it seems like. And so he doesn't play his idol and everyone else just screws this up. It's baffling.
I don't have words. I can't supplement this with any more logic other than what you mentioned about Fabio saying like, man, shucks. He really kicks his heel in the sand a little bit. Like, I kind of like that Marty guy. I really don't want to vote him out. But like, then you don't split the votes.
Yeah.
This was the most complicated way to do the wrong thing.
Absurdly bad move. Should not have been Kelly B or it should have been Marty. If everyone had played correctly, Marty plays his idol. The majority of the split votes were on him. The backup votes all land on Kelly B. Kelly B's out of the game. So I guess the right person went home, but we took the complete wrong way to get here.
And still have an idol in the game.
And personally, I don't know why the young people decided to target Kelly B in favor of Jane. I understand, sometimes you want to target people at given times, but this early in a tribe swap, I think maybe try and get a few more numbers and take out Jane no matter how much you like her.
I think there's some logic to wanting to swap out Kelly B and Jane. I can get on board with that. It's everything else I can't get on board with.
Yeah, there's a lot of things wrong here. That's the least of which.
So that's the LaFleur tribe. They're gonna feast and watch the spot. We're gonna play the hourglass advantage. Go back in time a little bit here to the Espada Beach. It's Eve and Dan on the block. Eve is a bigger threat than Dan, obviously. So do we get rid of the weak person or the more threatening player? And Eve tells the young folks on her tribe that, hey, I'm close to Marty, Jill, and Jane. I'm closer than Dan is, which I don't think is true. I think Dan is closer to at least Marty and Jane than Eve, but whatever.
At best, it's a toss-up.
I can help you build those connections once we merge. And Alina's like, I think that just makes you more of a threat. I don't think that was the flex you meant it to be.
I feel like if Eve was robbing a bank, she accidentally just told a policeman.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I can help you rob that bank over there. Oh. That. Why did you tell me that? That was,
I guess.
That was awful. Like, oh, you'd be really good at helping me rob the bank. Yes, but but I'm a policeman. Why would I do that?
This is the play that you make when like you're pitching to a minority group. Like if it's a group of like 2 or 3 people, it's like, hey, once we come together, I will be able to grab these people and we'll be a larger chunk. Right now, they don't need that. They're going to have the majority no matter what. So this is worthless information.
This is worthless.
What is hard is that Holly already filled the role of, I was on the outs on that tribe. I've got no allegiance to them, and I'm going to go with you guys.
You act too slow.
So it's going to be 6 votes for Eve, 1 vote for Dan. It probably should have been Dan, but, like, this is fine, I guess. Like, because, like, okay, so they get rid of Eve. They're a stronger player than Dan. They lose again. Okay, they get rid of Dan. Is it a bad move? No. Was there a better move? I think so.
This one very much felt, because Dan was, like, talking about why am I here this episode, right? I love the keep him hostage, like hold him hostage. So even though before I've said like, oh yeah, it should have been Dan. No. If you're going to hold somebody hostage, I'm good with that. I'm good with Eve going home.
Even though I think Dan did come around and say like, no, I don't want to.
And he did. And he ended up saying something to Jeff like, oh, it'd be a bummer if I did get voted out. I don't want that. Like, okay, cool. So, we came back around. Good for you. But I do like to hold them hostage, even if it's more like a semi-hostage situation.
Yeah, it probably should have been Dan, but it's good.
It's fine. So 2 people get voted out here, so we get to give out 2 best and 2 worst. I hope you remembered this time.
Yeah, I did.
All right, good for you guys. All right, I'll go first. So my 2 bests, I gave 1 to Holly because she handled that confrontation with Eve at the beginning of the episode very well. She also won individual immunity. And my second goes to Jane because she got in so well with Brenda and her plan, and she built some connections this episode. So my 2 were Holly and Jane.
So yeah, I'll just agree right off the bat with Jane for 1. And then for the other one, weirdly enough, I'm going to say Fabio. And it's because like he never fully fell hook, line, and sinker for the whole chess grandmaster thing. He just kind of said like, it makes sense. And the fact that he said that he wanted to keep Marty around. Now, whether this is good for him or not, if he feels like he has a connection with Marty and he can work with Marty, he got his entire alliance to work against their best interests and do the completely wrong thing. But he kept his guy.
Yes.
He kept his guy. And so I'm going to give him credit for that, even if it was an accident, even if it was bad, but we just don't know enough to say otherwise. So I'm going to trust him.
I'm going to agree with you on Fabio just because, like, he has a closer bond with Marty than it seems like he does with Jane or Jill. And so he kept that person. He kept his options open. So, this is not bad for Fabio.
Right.
What happened.
So I gave a best to Fabio.
I had Holly as well. So I agree with Ryan on that one. And then, honestly, it probably should be someone like Jane. I originally wrote down Marty just because even though he didn't play his idol, it worked out for him.
Yeah, but that's giving Marty so much credit.
Completely in the wrong way. So Josh nowadays probably would not give it to Marty, but I did in the past, so that's what I'm just mentioning now.
Yes, we are allowed to change these. I want to make sure it's clear.
Yes.
We can, even though you mentioned your old one, but then mention like, yeah, I got better and new information, or I got smarter. We can change our minds.
So really, if you're looking at a consensus between all 3 of us, we doubled up twice. We doubled up on Holly and we doubled up on Jane.
I just want to point out that I'm the one who picked both of those.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the Fabio pick quite a bit. Worst players, I had Marty because he didn't play his idol.
Whoops.
He got fooled by Brenda. And, I guess this entire season, Jane has not felt comfortable with him. And I think that's on Marty. So for whatever reason, he just didn't connect with her, didn't like include her, and that made it easier for the flip. So this kind of is like points for this entire pre-merge so far. And this is where it's kind of biting Marty in the butt. So Marty's number 1. And my second one is Brenda because she was the leader of this group. She could have taken out Marty when she had the chance. And then the way she called Marty out at that tribal council probably makes her the biggest target of that bunch. So if Marty does ever regain power again, guess who enemy number 1 is? It's Brenda. So she brought unnecessary attention on herself, really for no reason.
Yeah, so I'll go next. I agree with Marty 100%. We've always talked about culminations of certain actions happening, good or bad. We always try and give credit in that episode on this podcast. And the negative relationship he's had with Jane, excluding her, ostracizing her, is going to come to a front now. The only thing I'll add to what you already said is when Brenda did confront him with that doublespeak sort of, catch-22 at Tribal Council, Marty should have probably thought of that already and considered what he could have said in that and had a better response. Like, oh, you were going to vote for Jane? Yeah, because there are 5 of you and 3 of us, and you gave us no other option. But now, you know what? Maybe I think I'll just throw a vote on you, because if Jane does go with them, then all of a sudden Brenda's tied at 3, and then this gets a whole lot weirder. So I give a negative demerits to Marty. And I did keep this on the different tribes. So my second one is Dan, and it's because he was kind of down, old dirty Dan for like most of the episode. He ended up being held hostage, and I do believe it is now impossible for Dan to win the game. I don't think that anyone would vote for him anymore. I think, like, Jenna proved me wrong in Amazon because she got held hostage and ended up winning. I don't think that someone who's constantly bragging about his 6 Ferraris and his 2 beach houses and talking about wanting to leave and being held hostage is going to win the game. I'm looking forward to Nicaragua proving me wrong. They won't.
Final 2, Dan Nyanka.
Yes. Oh man, strategically, I feel like I'd have to give it to Nyanka. Anyway.
So you had Brenda and Dan.
Marty and Dan.
Josh.
Marty and Dan. Okay. Interestingly, I said Brenda, so I agreed with Ryan there. And then I had an NA for the second one. Nowadays, I don't know. I'm giving the benefit of luck, I guess, to Marty here to not give him the worst player. So I'd maybe go with someone like a Dan as my second player. But that's just because I have, a little bit of pride in older Josh.
Shouldn't, though.
Him as the best.
You shouldn't.
I shouldn't. But I will fill in a gap there and say Dan is my second worst.
Brendan, Dan. Okay. So, do we just tie? Do we do a 3-way tie?
Sounds right.
3-way tie.
Nice.
Everyone's the worst.
Everyone sucks. All right, last episode of the pre-merge, episode 7, What Goes Around Comes Around. Marty tries to talk to Jane and tries to get back on the same page with her, but does a really bad job. He just kind of talks at her and doesn't really let her say anything. Yeah, he means well, but it's just very poorly done. I don't think Marty has figured out how to talk to Jane.
He's no bridge builder.
No. And he's like, I think you voted for me. And Jane's like, oh, Marty, and walks away. Jane voted for Marty.
And it goes up to Jill. I think Jane voted for me. And when I confronted her about it, which I probably shouldn't have done, it just goes to it validates your point, Ryan, that Marty is probably a better student of the game, possibly a better coach than he is in execution trying to be a player, because he's just that wasn't a very good move. Why did I do that?
It's hard when you're a good student of the game and really knowledgeable to get caught up in the moment, I'm sure. You talk too fast. You talk faster than what your mind is thinking. So then you go think about it later on when you're just talking to someone else or alone wallowing on the beach. You're man, I knew that this was the wrong thing to do, but I did it anyways.
I should not have said that.
I shouldn't have said that.
Marty is very much the Hagrid of Survivor Nicaragua. Should not have said that. I love Marty though. He's a lot of fun, and he's pretty self-aware and in confessional. He's like, this could be the dumbest move in all time. Oh well, we'll gamble.
We'll see.
YOLO. So I greatly enjoy Marty's presence on this season a lot, even if he makes very bad moves.
Oh, he ups the memeability, and anything that ups the memeability of Nicaragua for me is a plus.
Dude, his hair alone ups the memeability. He's just got crazy island hair.
He reminds me of Shane Powers.
He is
that far.
Well, no, I don't mean
the look.
I don't mean mentality wise, but he's got that crazy eye. He's got that crazy aura. This guy is unpredictable.
So here's
never
Marty.
Let him know your next move.
Here's Marty. You take Shane Powers and you combine him with an older Spencer Bledsoe, and you get Marty.
Kinda.
Yeah.
With less Eastern medicine.
Yeah, I think so.
I think Spencer's a big fan of the show.
Spencer on the show and Shane on the show, but Spencer aged up. That's Marty.
Yeah, there you go.
So after the reward challenge, LaFleur's going to lose. We get our very first Purple Kelly confessional.
Oh my god!
The very first one.
I was so happy because all she really said was, "I guess they have to milk their own milk."
I wish we had won that reward. That's the whole confessional.
And then
Who are you?
Who are you?
No, and this is where I need to say it forever because I know what it means to have the purple edit, and I know the legend of Purple Kelly. And I have to say, she is the most invisible person in the history of this show, and we're only through the pre-merge. Because Jeff is always like, Purple Kelly doing well in the challenge. Oh, or someone will be like, yes, I've got Kelly, purple in my alliance right now. Or, we've got Purple Kelly here. And so we know she exists, but like, it's almost like she's like a god, like we just have to trust whoever's telling us that she does in fact exist.
The legend of Purple Kelly.
The legend that is Purple Kelly. And then just like a Yeti sighting, like she finally shows up and is like, I'm milking my milk.
Yep. The funny thing is, I don't think you would have even acknowledged her existence if it wasn't for the fact that you know the legend of Purple Kelly.
And this is what has made the preseason of Nicaragua so fun for me. The memeability of like Jimmy Johnson and Purple Kelly and all of this other nonsense. Medallion of Power. Like this has been an utter chaotic roller coaster of nonsense. I feel like I just got dropped down Alice's like hole into Wonderland. This season would suck if I didn't know about the memes.
So for those of you who don't know, when someone gets purple-headed, that means that they're not being shown. Purple-headed means you're invisible. And this Purple Kelly's like the most famous example because she got like so little screen time. She makes the merge, and you get one confessional from her in the entire pre-merge. And we'll see how it continues in the post-merge. But yeah, she's almost out on the season.
And that one confessional was absolutely zero substance.
Nothing helpful here. So that's the meme of Purple Kelly. We'll get more into that in the post-merge. But that's it for her here. We're done.
That's it. Wrap it up. Let's go.
The fact that we had to talk about it. Oh, my God.
We get a cannonball launching immunity challenge, which is really cool. Alina and Benry nail it for Espada. They are simpatico. Espada wins. LaFleur's going back to Tribal Council. So the plan is, all right, cool. We split the votes between Marty and Jill. Marty places idol. Jill's out of the game. It's perfect. Easy, done. Sash is like, hey, maybe I can convince Marty to give me the idol. So he goes and talks to Marty. And it's like, so Marty, and basically they negotiate for a while, but eventually what it ends up being is if Marty hands over the idol, Sash will guarantee Marty survives this tribal council and one more. And then, fair game. So two tribal council survivals, and then Sash gets to keep the idol. And he said, if we need to go back to tribal council again, and I feel like you need it, I will give it back to you. That's the other thing.
Sure.
That's less relevant. But basically, that is the crux of the deal is two tribal. This will save you for one. If you play it tonight, you go home next time. If you give me the idol, I guarantee you survive two tribal councils. Marty gives the idol to Sash. I would not have done this. I would have just taken my bet, played the idol for myself, and tried to find it again next week. That's what I would have done in Marty's position. I do not like this move at all.
This is ridiculous. And it's also, I don't also like, you could say, what's the harm in trying? Like from Sash's point of view, I don't like this from Sash's point of view, like either. It seems way too aggressive. This is the type of thing that, could come back to bite you in ways.
It could.
So I'm not a huge fan. It worked. So, results oriented there, but on both sides, not a big fan of this.
It's effective for Sash. For this episode, it definitely works. It does put in a target on Sash's back a little bit. So if I'm Sash, what you should almost do is just vote out Marty anyway, and then play the idol fast and just get this out of here.
Marty wouldn't be on the jury. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Marty's out of the game. Doesn't matter. At Tribal Council, Sash makes it known he has the idol now. Marty doesn't have it. It's going to be 3 votes for Jill, 2 votes for Marty, 2 votes for Jane, because I don't think everybody knew that Sash had the idol going into Tribal Council. So the plan was to split the votes. Now it knows, and they're just like, all right, we're just not going to mess with the plan. We'll just vote how we should. 3 votes for Jill, 2 votes for Marty, 2 votes for Jane. I think this is an okay move for Fabio for sure to get rid of Jill instead of Marty. I think it's an okay move for Sash because at least they both have working relationships with Marty. Like they have this option now. Everybody else, I feel like they should just take it out Marty.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing that we were talking about last episode. Just rinse, repeat. It's take this guy out now while you can. You never know what's going to happen at a potential merge. So why risk it? Just take him out now. Yeah, Jill could also be a threat, but you've seen a lot more from Marty. So he's vulnerable. Go for it.
I'm not going to bunt on this. I'm going to kick it to the cast. Whichever one of Jill or Marty seems more likable, you need to vote them out.
Okay. It's probably Jill, to be honest.
And that's why I think that they ended up going with Jill. So the fact that Sash got the idol, I don't think that they would have voted out Marty anyway. I think that they made a whole lot of hullabaloo about it. But, Fabio likes Marty and they need a working relationship with him. Jill's, I think, probably more likable, more sociable. She had to go anyway. So him giving up the idol was kind of a bonus for them. The only thing I want to add to this conversation at all, from my point of view, is now I'm trying. My winner pick was Jill, everybody. Yep. So at this point in the episode, now I'm like, who do I pick once Jill goes home?
Team Sash.
To what Josh said, this is the kind of thing that can lose a game for someone like Sash. Like, it might get you through tomorrow, but it might lose you so many jury votes if you play this wrong, especially if you send Marty home to Ponderosa first after the merge. Marty's going to set the tone for everybody who shows up after that, and he can poison that jury.
Yes, so, if that happens.
If it happens, and I don't know that will. I don't know how the winner of this game is not affected by a bitter jury, because there are no overly competent players. There's no one who's going into the merge in a great spot. Like, there are good spots and there are less good spots and there are bad spots, but there's no one in a great spot.
Right.
Perhaps the most strategic powerhouse is Neanka. She's drawing an absolute 0 on the social game. So I have no idea who to pick for a winner anymore.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we will.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, we're not there yet, but that's the only thing I wanted to add to this.
Let's get into best worst player. Derek, who is your best player of the episode?
So I gave it to Sash. And it's because of what happened in this episode. This is with the big asterisk where I agree with Josh that this could absolutely burn jury votes down the road. But he got an idol, and ultimately I think Jill was the right move anyway. So I gave it to Sash.
Yeah, I agree. It's Sash. He got Marty to hand over an idol. And he has a working relationship with Marty. We haven't seen one with Jill, so there's logic for him to get rid of Jill instead. I gave it to Sash.
Yeah, even though I kind of put out that I wasn't a big fan of it. Still got to go with him. Best of Sash.
How about worst player?
I gave it to Marty. I don't think giving up the idol was the right move for him. I honestly think I would have played it for myself and prayed for a merge and prayed for something else to happen, to the Survivor gods. I don't think that Marty is in an Eric Reichenbach position where he needs to swing for the fences and start giving up immunities in order to try and win the game.
It's the pre-merge.
He should have probably kept that for himself and tried to win the next challenge. I think that was the better way for him to try and make it two voting cycles further in the game. So I hated the give up the idol move.
Derek, I couldn't have said that better myself. It's Marty.
No one owes you anything in the game just because someone says they're going to guarantee you 2 rounds if you give them an idol. Doesn't mean anything. It's Marty.
All right. So that's the end of the pre-merge. So it's time to talk about the new winner pick situation. Because Derek, this is normally where we just talk about like who our new winner picks would be. Derek,
perfect timing.
Derek's in the fortunate position where he actually does get to make a new winner pick going into the merge. So Derek, who do you got?
Guys, I don't have a good answer for you.
Draw from a hat.
Purple
Kelly.
Purple
Kelly.
I finished episode 7, and then I sat there. I went back to work for like 3 hours, and then I made my winner.
During work?
No, I watched it during lunch, actually.
Oh, sure.
And I ended up falling on Alina. And the main reason is she's done a really good job of making inroads with a couple of the older people who swapped to her tribe. She's buried the hatchet, at least for the time being, with Neanka, who has a really solid in with Brenda and Sash on the other tribe when they come back together and they merge. And Neanka has spoken to Alina's strategic game and social game and sort of validated her as a threat. Now, that obviously doesn't fare well for her if the young people do take control of the game in the merge, but it does mean that maybe she has enough chops to shift the blocks in her favor down the road. There are a lot of reasons that, you could say Alina's a bad pick, but I think that you could come up with just as many reasons for everybody else being a worse pick. So I landed on Alina. I don't feel good about it. Alina, I know you're a big fan of the podcast. Please take this home for me.
All right.
I don't think there's any such thing as like a bad new winner pick going into the merge, because so many things can change. Okay. In general,
Like, if Derek had picked Nyanka.
I could have picked Dan.
Yeah.
Or Fabio.
Exactly. Just because we haven't seen a ton of from her and she's kind of been at the bottom of her alliance, that doesn't mean anything. Like, I think she could absolutely still win the game.
So, Derek, new winner pick is Alina. Josh, you have Sash. Would you keep Sash or would you change someone else?
I mean, I'm going to keep him. I have to keep him.
Yeah, but you have to keep him. You're not allowed to. But if you could, would you?
At this point, just because we haven't seen a whole lot from him since, right away at the beginning of the game and then just right now, that's a pretty good pre-merge situation. So I guess I'd keep him. If I were to switch to anyone, I think I'd probably switch to someone like maybe Brenda.
Okay.
She's a pretty solid option. If I was in Derek's shoes, if I was completely picking a new person, she might be someone that I would look to as a new winner pick.
So I have Marty. I would 100% switch. I think he is screwed. I think he's so screwed. I would actually switch to Holly if I had the chance. She had that really rough second episode, but ever since then she's been great. So I would pick Holly.
Holly was my runner-up pick for my new winner, for whatever that's worth.
So let's get into best and worst player of the pre-merge. Now, we cannot choose any of the 8 people who have been voted out so far. So the final 12, who is our best player of the pre-merge? Derek, who do you got?
I think it comes down to 2 people. I think that it's either Sash, as Josh kept for his winner pick, or my new winner pick, Alina, which is why I ended up going with her. I do think that Sash is in more of a power position, but I don't like that as much in a pre-merge, which is why I'm going to fall on Alina. She was in the minority in the beginning by way of, indirectly getting into an alliance with Kelly B that people were very threatened by, perhaps too much so because they were a little more mean-spirited and overly competitive than they typically would be and probably should be. But ever since then, she's done a really good job at making up ground. She's got inroads with the older crowd, and then she is buried the hatchet with Nyanka and has, a way in when the merge comes around. So I have Alina.
I ended up going with Sash. I don't feel great about anybody. I think Sash has the least amount of holes in his game, even though he still does. He's got an idol from Marty. He set up this minority alliance. He's got a decent network. Nobody seems to be mad at him. So I don't feel great about it, but Sash is my best player.
I don't feel great about it, but Josh 2 years ago had Brenda. Just like you said, same thing as Sash. Same thing as Sash. There's holes in the game. So what you can say about everyone here remaining. So say what you want, but I gave it to her. Nowadays, I think I would have to watch the entire pre-merge, scene by scene, all the episodes again to really get a good feel for it. But I think it'd still be either Brenda or Sash.
How about worst player of the pre-merge? Derek, who do you got? This is going to be interesting.
I don't want to bunt on this one. I really don't. I just want to. I'm going to do what Ryan does, and I really want to reserve the right to see what happens because a couple seasons ago, I said that Russell Hantz played the worst game because he'll make it to the end a lot, but he'll never win. Nyanka's playing that game. The only difference is that we're not getting those confessionals surrounding Nyanka from pretty much all sides saying that everybody hates the way she's doing it. We've gotten a lot of negative, but not nearly so strong, and she's not nearly as Machiavellian just by way of opportunity that Russell was in Heroes vs. Villains and in Season 19. So if it is that way and we see that down the road, then it's Nyanka, because this is a game that you play that'll get you to the end that you will never ever win. That being said, based on what we've seen thus far, I'm going to give it to the other person who draws a big old 0 in a couple categories, and I'm going to give it to Dan. He's been held hostage. He's been on the chopping block for being the weakest. He certainly isn't going to save himself in any sort of individual immunity situation going forward. He's done nothing but be a drag on his team, sometimes emotionally, sometimes spiritually, and every single time physically, by no merit of his other than the grace of his social game and stupidity around him. Is he still here? So I am going to go with Dan, with the caveat that it could very well be Nyanka.
So there's a ton of people on the season who are, they're just like NAs. There's just not enough information. So my worst player of the pre-merge is Marty. he has strategic chops and does everything wrong. He gets focused on the wrong things. He lets his ego get in the way. He shouldn't be in this game. He somehow is. He didn't play as idle, then he handed it away. He hasn't made enough connections with people. He made a few, but then he just like completely ignored people like Jane. His social game ruffles some feathers. Marty has. I'm almost more disappointed than angry at Marty because he has all this potential and he's just doing all the wrong things with it. He's the Lex. He can make every move in the playbook and he's picking all the wrong ones. Marty is my worst player of the pre-merge, though he is probably my favorite person on the season.
Grandmaster Marty. I think it's so funny that he's like Lex and all, even those years ago now when we watched Africa and podcast and we said that if Survivor's a game of chess, Lex is one of the people who can move the pieces, but he makes all the wrong moves. What kept me from giving it to Marty was he did do a couple of good things where, maybe Dan should have gone home, but he had a working relationship and got, people to do what was good for him. So there were a couple good things in there, but in general, I agree with you. Like, he's the most squandered potential.
Oh my God. I just kind of realized, like, I'm the Marty of chess. I can make all the moves. I just make all the wrong ones. I'm the Lex of chess.
Oh, no.
Rip me. Josh, who do you got?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that just because you are disappointed in someone not living up to their potential that gives them the right of worst player. I think that's just most disappointing player.
He's made the most bad moves, I think.
Which is just an award in itself. I also gave an honorable mention to Nayanka, but I will agree with Derek that I'm going to give it to Dan. Basically, I don't need to go over it again. All the stuff that Derek said. I'm going to also add on, though, the fact that he was on the verge of quitting as well.
Yeah, he got held hostage, yeah.
Yeah, like would have he actually quit? Probably not. But there was a time there where he could have just left. He has the money. Not the shoes anymore. He has the money.
Speaking of the people who were in, this discussion for worst of the pre-merge, Nayanka also was considering quitting. So.
And Holly.
Oh my goodness.
Lots of people considering quitting. There's tough days out there. We haven't done it, but Nicaragua does have a reputation for being a tough weather season. I don't think we've seen a ton for it.
Take the tarp.
Yeah, so tough stuff. I give Dan should not be in this game. So I give him credit for the social game that just carried him through somehow magically.
I think it's more that they're just other people that they wanted to take out that were more of a threat.
Sure.
It's his social game.
And threat is used loosely.
Yeah, his social game, I think, saved him on his original tribe, and literally the fact that he has no teeth nor venom saved him after the swap.
So this is pretty much it for the pre-merge in Nicaragua. Do you guys have any more thoughts so far?
My only thing, and I know we only mentioned like the cannonball challenge and the water wheel waterboarding of death challenge, but the challenges in this pre-merge are next level, above and beyond.
Very unique.
I'm trying to remember what was the challenge in episode 7, because that was another one where I'm watching it. I'm like, I love this challenge so much. I just made a note that said, love this challenge, trusting I would remember. And of course I don't, because I'm too busy thinking about every other meme that happened this season.
I think they wanted to make challenges that were less physically demanding and just more like kind of weird. That way give it a little more balance, because, the old and the young divide. I think that was probably their goal. And
I loved it. I think all of these challenges have pretty much been new, and they're convoluted. And they look like they were designed by like Rick from Rick and Morty, or like, Doc Brown from Back to the Future. So
just wacky.
I love
Marty.
Marty.
I love all of the challenges. So I have discussed memeability, and by far the memeiest season that's ever memed that I've seen so far. The challenges and the memeability. It's not must-watch Survivor, but if you love cool challenges and memes, you will like this pre-merge.
Yeah, honestly, we have a couple of friends who really like Survivor for the challenges. That's the main reason they watch. This might be up your alley.
Yeah.
All right, Derek, a weather report. Anything you want to mention?
There was one really big storm, the one in particular that had Nayanka on the verge of quitting. It was raining sideways.
Yep.
Thanks, Holly. It was raining sideways. That looked miserable. Again, people take the tarp. But other than that, it doesn't seem like it's been too bad. It seems like it would be quite buggy there, but we've got no validation in the edit to corroborate such claims.
Nicaragua is a very rugged location. They're going to reuse this one a couple of times, and that's the reputation is it's very rugged.
And the other thing, didn't one of their beaches get absolutely trashed by some flooding that happened inland, and they couldn't even go in the ocean for half a day or something like that?
Yeah, they had some flood coming down from the mountains.
There was just dirty, sticky, debris-y water. Debris, we've got debris. So however you want to factor that into weather report, but it felt like Australia a little bit for that moment. So not the easiest. I do think this is closer to the side of hard, but it feels middling right now.
Sure. All right, last thing we got to talk about is the most memorable moment of the season. Josh is our memorability consultant. Josh, of the pre-merge, what would you say is the most memorable moment of the season? I think there's a clear winner, but, what do you got?
I actually think that there's a top 2 here. Now, I'm going to give an honorable mention. I can't pick it because I completely forgot about it until it was actually mentioned. But I want to give a nice shout out to the Water Wheel of Death.
Oh, yeah.
So if we could all just recognize that. So we got 2 finalists here. We got Shannon.
Yep, that's
Shannon
the
at
one.
Tribal Council. Just got asked, bro.
Bro, are you gay?
Oh, man.
So it's between that and the Medallion of Power.
Ah, yes.
And it just the thing that bites the Medallion of Power is that there isn't a succinct moment for it. It's more just the general lifespan, the rise and the fall. Or maybe not even the rise, just the push off the cliff of the Medallion of Power.
It was a plateau until it fell.
R.I.P. Medallion of Power, season 21 pre-merge to season 21 pre-merge.
No. We didn't really talk about it, but Jeff's and the Medallion of Power, after the tribe swap, Medallion of Power is no more.
We're done.
We're done.
It's done.
It was a complete
At the
done.
tribe swap. That's so weird. Why not just carry it to the merge?
Because
don't get it.
I think they're all this is stupid.
This is dumb.
This is too dumb for Jeff, and that's saying something.
I kind of want to go with the Medallion of Power just because that has held so much more of a staying power as a running. When you talk about the memification of this season, that has stayed as a running joke, at least in our friend group, and I've seen it a little bit on Twitter and stuff too, where it's just the butt of jokes and everyone loves it. Bring it back, because why not?
Why not?
So I feel like I need to go for the Medallion of Power here. You might disagree.
I do disagree.
But it memorability, it stays with you.
But, bro, are you gay?
For whatever
I've
it's
been with
worth.
so many more beautiful women than you.
For whatever it's worth, I 100% agree with Josh that the existence of the Medallion of Power needs to be the memorable quote unquote moment. We did not even mention Survivor legend Jimmy Johnson as someone to discuss here. And I think of all the memes that it could have come out of season, the pre-merge of season 21, the fact that the biggest celebrity ever to play the game is an afterthought by the time we hit the merge is just truly telling.
He's only the 3rd biggest meme of the season.
And it might be 4th or 5th by the time we get there.
Pre-merge.
There's time, Ryan.
There's so much time.
I will say the most memorable Jimmy Johnson moment, at least for me, is when he's trying to talk to the monkeys.
Yes. Yeah, he's howling at the monkeys. They're howling back at him, and they're like, "Well, what'd they say to you? Get your ass out of here!
Get the hell out of here!"
All right, Medallion of Power, baby. All right, we'll see if anything in the post-merge can beat it. All right, so that's the end of Survivor Nicaragua pre-merge. Next time will be the post-merge. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, it should be fun.
It'll be a time.
You can follow us on Twitter at Castaway Pod. We have TikTok, Instagram, follow us on all that stuff. Castaway Consultants.
Message us on any of these platforms. We will get back to you, and it doesn't have to be about the current season. It doesn't have to be about the current rewind. Just talk about Survivor with us. That's why we're here.
Yeah. We'd love to talk about Survivor. Any questions you ever
respond
have?
to basically anything.
Pretty much, yeah.
We have nothing
will.
going on.
We have nothing better to do. All right, guys. If we got nothing else, I'm going to go lose at chess some more.
Have fun.
All right, this has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.